Java, come on, touch him, you know, like his belly. He's like, oh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Cantina Conversations. I am the number one Kylo Ren fanboy, Travis Snell, and I'm joined by
the Grand Admiral Taylor Field.
I was gonna ask in that theme song, why does it's like and it's about to hit that last crescendo piece, but then you like edit it to not hit that? Was that trying to avoid copyright or something?
No, I think I shortened it because it was just a long intro already. If I could ask myself why, I would, but
is that like public domain music? Because I don't think we've ever been flagged for that music. But I've heard it on trailers before, because remember it used to be used on those, like, you know, what is it, like illegal streaming is not a victimless crime. Would you steal a DVD off a Blockbuster? You know, like those. You remember those previews?
I remember them. Yeah, you wouldn't steal a car. Piracy, it's a crime. Yeah, but I think, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're not pirating the song, so I don't know how it works.
We're not paying for it either, so, you know, we'll find out. But, yeah, we've never been flagged for it, so that's why I was curious. It must be public domain, then, if we've never been flagged for it. Lots of times those trailer ones are, too, because I remember there was, like, a wrestler's theme. They're the Hardy Boys, very popular tag team. And one time I just saw their preview on, like, Spike TV, midnight, in between probably some Girls Gone Wild and stuff like this. Like, oh, the Hardy Boys. So it's probably one of those just for TV and DVDs and stuff. Of course, I didn't watch Girls Gone Wild. There's just something. But, no, who was watching that? Who was watching blanked out titties? You know, you can go online and get real titties. I was always like, why? Who's staying up?
Do they have that online back then? I don't think so.
Maybe like the dial-up connection. You can get it. There's gonna be some viruses that come with it, but you could get it nowadays. Man, just free as usual.
Nowadays, I mean, yeah, you don't have to stay up till 3 a.m.
Yeah, waiting for the video to download. Make sure your parents don't come down. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the, you know, for YouTube, it's just a conjoined episode. But first, we're going to be starting with season 3 of the good old double intro. You know, people must be seeing that, and they're probably like,
shut the fuck up.
Just get to the show already. But yes, we're talking about season 3 of Rebels. At the time, this is a Rebels Day for you podcast listeners, because we're dropping season 3 and 4. This was the only way to do it. Very, very, you know, usually I like to spread it out, but want to give everyone time to listen, because literally at the time this recording, or sorry, at the time this drops, we are a week away from Ahsoka, and that's gonna be fun. I think I got shown on a calendar that it's actually, yeah, I think that it was confirmed it's actually 8 episodes. It wasn't 6, so there you go. That's fun. So I think it's literally. I think it ends. Oh, I wonder if that's it. Yeah, we'll have to see.
It ends in October, doesn't it?
Yeah, but Loki's on the Friday, so I wonder if just the premiere is Friday and it goes back to Wednesday. Because I was talking about with Brent and Chris, because obviously with Marvel Alliance they always go Thursday after the D Plus shows. But we're like, man, it's gonna mess with that schedule. But that might make sense. But yeah, that's what this show is. It's a lead into Ahsoka. You know, we're all very excited. I'm hoping, and check out the newscast as well, because we're gonna do Ahsoka predictions. There'll be other stuff too, but Ahsoka predictions, so about excitement, get Kirkland in there. So I'll save that. But yes, we're doing this. So go back and check out season 1. Rebels, check out season 2 if you want to know what Cantina Conversations was. You know, go over there and you know, listen to the first episode. We give a whole little origin of it and stuff like that. And if you like this, yeah, let us know in the comments. You know, obviously this was a bit more of a streamlined one because it's about the show, but we try to make it that, yes, we're reviewing the show, but we're just on overall terms, because we want people, if you don't have time to watch the show, you kind of get a sense of, we're giving you the bullet points of what happened, maybe some character arcs, motivations, deaths, etc. So Taylor Field, what did you feel about season 3 of Rebels? Obviously this was a big one for you, because I remember, I can't remember what it was. There was Star Wars Celebration that year, and I remember it was a super disappointing thing that year as far as a showcase. But I remember you not being disappointed, because that's when they confirmed Thrawn and a teaser was coming to Star Wars Rebels. So we got that in a teaser. And obviously now he's coming to the show. You know, Thrawn, he's still coming. He's not here yet. Who knows? We'll have to talk about predictions. Does he come in 7 days? I don't know. But Thrawn Watch 2023, look out, everybody. So yeah, Thrawn still coming. Thrawn Watch 2023. I kind of hope he doesn't come to like the finale, just so we can keep that going. But, Thrawn is coming at some point. But Taylor, at one point you were told, hey, Thrawn's coming to Rebels. So obviously, what did you feel about some of that anticipation buildup? Because I think we talked about it in the cast. We don't got to go in deep. And then also, what did you feel about this season and, overall, not episode by episode? Don't get carried away. Just what do you think about season 3?
I really, really love this season. I love for the expansion, the things that they kind of dip their toes into with this season, and I'm really just
dipped or
thankful,
tipped?
both.
Okay.
I'm really thankful that we managed to actually pull this off and watch this whole series, because I was going into Ahsoka thinking
actually,
I bought it for a second. I was like, oh, he's dipping and tipping.
Just leaving you alone for the season 3 and 4 retrospective.
But yeah, I am genuinely glad that we did this, because I was going into Ahsoka not thinking I needed to revisit these characters, but in doing so, this is the second time I've gone through here. I've watched clips of season 3 and 4, specifically just throwing stuff on YouTube out the wazoo, but just to kind of get it in the grand scheme of just this whole linear narrative really, really helped my understanding of Thrawn, especially after all the additional books and everything that's kind of released, and revisiting other mediums of Thrawn as well, but we'll talk more about that later. I think, though, that the show hitting this point now, we've had Force Awakens release, and so we have also Rogue One, I think, that released this year as well, that this season dropped. So
is this not post / Jedi?
No, season 3 dropped in 2016, and Force Awakens 2015.
So it's the build up to Last Jedi. Okay.
Yeah. So I think season 4, because this dropped in season 3 was 2016, and I guess season 4 would have been Last Jedi time. But it's just, you were really starting to see what Disney is kind of doing at this point with Star Wars. And for me, you're right. With Thrawn, I was head over heels. I love Force Awakens. I love Rogue One. And so here we go. They introduced Thrawn. It was great. And there's just a few other things that they really did a good job with in season 3, just with the world building for Star Wars. And I really, really appreciate that. I feel like season 2 alluded to it, but season 3 really capitalized on it, especially the dark tendencies of Ezra, especially in that season opener, what he's doing to the AT Walker pilot, where he makes the guy shoot his own men, then walk the walker off the edge. And Sabine's
what is
like,
he doing?
Where'd you learn to do it? I don't remember Kanan teaching you that. And he's like, he didn't. It's like, whoa. Just to insinuate, like, really hit that nail on the head with the hammer for the kids, that Ezra is going through a dark spell right now. And
they kind of drop it halfway through. They don't really.
They do.
It's funny.
Do.
I remember, like, I know we'll get more into it, because obviously we'll talk about the predictions, but we're always been like, people throw out that theory of him being the Inquisitor, right? And I just thought, oh yeah, you had those dark side stuff. But really, when I watched it again, I'm like, oh, it was like it was there, but it was definitely a way smaller portion than I remembered. I remember it being like half a season. Really, it's like, I don't know, 4 episodes maybe, the most.
If he embraced we'll talk about it, but if he embraced the Emperor in season 4, then maybe. But he turned on the Emperor. That, like, there's no way he's the Inquisitor.
Yeah, so. I agree with you now. I think that'd be kind of fun, because people always... Yeah, I'm of two minds, because probably story-wise it doesn't make sense, but people always want, how many Dark Luke theories do we get, Dark Rey? I think it would be fun to finally take a semi-main character. I don't think Ezra Bridger is really a main character, but still in some medium he is, and actually turn them to the dark side, because other than Anakin, that's not really happened, right? Like, I'm trying to think of who's a character that we met as a good person that turned bad, and even Anakin I don't count, because
in live action.
Anything on books, because that's so vital. I'm just saying animation or Dooku. But even then, we got introduced to him as a bad person. I mean, right? I'm saying other than Anakin, they retroactively introduced him because the prequels are now episode 1, 2, and 3, right? But before that was like, this is original Anakin. Nobody's turned dark that we've seen, right? Even animation, we had the guy, and even that guy in the Clone Wars episode that you like, that is he's like Dex's race, whatever it is. Isn't he Dex's?
Krell.
Yeah, even then, like, we meet him for a second, then he's bad. So I actually wouldn't mind that if they do make him dark side, because it's something we've never got to do. People always fantasy book it, like, oh, what if this person, like, even Mark Hamill was like, what if I was a dark side user?
There's a good example because she was pretty much good throughout the whole time, and then she turned and got
Who?
Ahsoka. Barriss Offee. She was a
I kind of remember
Luminara
her.
and Dee's
Yeah,
apprentice. She
yeah.
got Ahsoka framed.
So that's like the closest we've had, and even then, not a massive character. I don't even think Ezra's a massive character, but it hasn't happened much. So, but story wise, it probably doesn't make sense. But continue, or if you don't have any thoughts.
I think that's pretty much it for now. Just like the excitement level to see Thrawn brought in was great. And in closing for this opening statement, seeing this season again and getting to really be immersed with Thrawn is fantastic because I'm re-listening to some of the books and I've been going through the comics. So I've been reminding myself how I've reminded myself what I feel like Thrawn really is in a certain light, and this show really paints him to be a flamboyant villain. They pull on
What?
some of the source material, I'd say, for what Thrawn acts like and is, but this show I feel like paints him as like a Count Dracula-esque, very more evil villain. And there's again the one scene that he does which I totally disagree with, where he has an emotional compromising situation against an Imperial officer, which is very out of character for him. And so I really do wonder how the live action version of this is going to compare to this version, because Timothy Zahn
I'll tell you,
has
Lars Mickelson's not going to be that Jack throwing like roundhouse kicks. I'll tell you that much.
no, and I don't expect him to. This is at least an easy like 20 years later, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
or-
Right? He can be older, so that makes up for it there.
Yeah, I just we're seeing how Thrawn acts in this certain light, and again, and even the comic that I'm reading, and how he reacts to certain other people. Like he's much more of like a. I'm gonna get more into it later, but it's the tip of the iceberg here. He guides you and helps you learn. The show and the animated series, it didn't have time for that. I understand it. It's a kids show. You got to keep the kids interested, so you just paint him as the villain. The one thing that I really appreciate with Thrawn is just his attention to the art and how he explains it and stuff like that. I love that. The other thing I really felt like was missing in here was him really relying on like his members of his team or members of the empire and like asking them questions, letting them think for themselves, getting their opinions. That's something that's really huge and makes him stand out from other imperial leaders. And make him kind of innocent to the political side of things. They really just made him feel like he's just this over-imposing imperial enemy warlord, which is fine. Again, like I say, it's a kids show, so...
There you go. I asked Hannah again specifics, and here we are. So we'll start with Thrawn. Don't worry. But season 3. Yeah, no, I like season 3 a lot. I don't know where it is as far as like an official rankings. I think how it goes is, and I'm not spoiling much because we're going to talk about season 4 and you'll get there, is season 1 is all about the rebels and like obviously it's but I mean like it's about these characters establishing their bond, their connection, and just the show overall. Okay, you got that. As we talk about with season 2, that's more with the stakes being risen as far as okay, everyone knows about this ghost crew, everyone's learning about Ezra, they know about Kanan, even Sabine, like they're hearing these names, they're going okay, these people are dangerous, so the stakes are rising. I think season 3 is a lot of how do we deal with these stakes now? Because I feel like you see a lot of characters. There's one episode in particular, our shout out, where you're getting stuck in between how to win a battle and it's my favorite dilemma and what I love about the Dark Knight. That's why, of course, you got Batman, Joker, but I've always said like what I love about the Dark Knight, what Nolan did is okay, how far are you willing to go to take down the bad guys? And there's one quote from here of Ezra or Kanan being like, you know, like we want to win, but how do we win? There's an episode where the rebels are divided as far as they should go this route versus we should go that route, and they meet Saw Gerrera, which we'll get into, but that's another character that pushes those limits of, hey, what is right and what's wrong, even though these things we might be doing are wrong, and we have thought the dark side, the empire, whatever you want to call them, have been doing these things that's not right. Do we have to do those things to win? Do we have to do those things to get what we want? So I think it's good. There's a lot more questioning. Season 4 is a lot more, I think, just actiony, which is still good. We'll get to, but like I think there's a lot more just bigger set pieces, bigger moments, and just more as far as like, okay, lots of battles. Where this, I feel like there is a lot of, you start with Ezra on the dark side, You start with Kanan in a rough place because he's recently been blinded, right? Hera, I feel like the weight's on her more because they have a base and they're gaining more traction, which is good because, of course, you want to rebel and you want the people behind you. But it is also that now more people look to you and talk to you, and there's just more things around that you have to deal with. Sabine and Zev have journeys as well, but I feel like those three especially are really feeling the torn of like, what do we do going forward? So there's that.
Sabine was on the back burner. She was Mandalore for half of the season too.
Yeah, she was. Gwen kept asking, when is she coming back? And she plays a much bigger role in season 4. But yeah, she has a journey, but I don't feel like it's the same as Hera, Ezra's, and Kanan. They don't have the exact same one, but I feel like that is kind of the, okay, what do you do in a war? And even with the dark side stuff, even with Maul, with Saw Gerrera, you have these people that are, even with Thrawn per se, and Thrawn, so this is a character that I won't have time. I think I'm going to wait till after So Quick, as obviously we'll do predictions, but I do think Thrawn will live, so I might have time. I'm sure Taylor would like cream his jeans over like a Thrawn. Well, I don't know if you do a Thrawn retro. You've done some Thrawn books already, so I don't know. But
I've reviewed them
again,
and I'll
do
go
them again. Yeah. But I think as an opposing force, I like it a lot. Last year we had Vader, but of course he was kind of around. I like Thrawn being overall in this season. I feel like the most he might be gone maybe 2 episodes, maybe 3 the most, and he's back and he's in episodes a lot. They build up to him, of course, the first little bit, but I think he's a good threat. I like the version what they've shown me, except I do have questions, and I think maybe some of Taylor's hangups or stuff that I would have hangups on too, and I haven't even read the books and all I knew is there's Taylor, but also just one, I saw Thrawn, and it's like superheroes, saw the look, like, oh, that looks great, and I've heard many great things about this film. So I think that they delivered for the most part. He does feel different than most Star Wars villains. I know people might compare him to other like British, Imperial people. I don't think he's flamboyant. I think you're using the wrong word there. Flamboyant's like Jack Sparrow or the Joker. Like that's very like, look at me. I'm just like, he's still very quiet all the time. But yeah, overall, I really, really like the season. I think it's another great season. It's more on the level of season 2 if I'm going to compare it there. So yeah, let's get into it. And yeah, let's just go back to Thrawn because Sarah's talking about that. And that's what I was going to say, where it happens early on. And because I remember when you, and maybe it's grown on you or there's still preferences, but I remember when you had watched Rebels the first time this season, and you were saying there were some things that they did that didn't really jive with you. And I didn't know what they were, but already when I watched it, back in the past and this time again was reminded of. And I agree with you where they introduce him as he's classic, cold, calculated, has a very low voice, and I'm talking to you as like he very slow, and this is why people have compared it, like the best comparison I'd say if you've not seen this show, read a book, Thrawn is pretty much Hannibal Lecter, and I'd say more so the Anthony Hopkins version. I'm saying in this version, Rebels. I'm not sure, books and everything, but as far as this, he's slow talking. He takes an interest into his enemies, and that's what I love. Where most of them are just like the rebel scum. He looks at it from the other opponent's point of view, and I like that he is. There's always seems like a level of respect where lots of the Imperials will just like downplay the rebels and they're going to lose no matter what because they're rebels and they're awful and they're not with us. Where Thrawn will not, he doesn't discredit anybody. He wants to see what they can do. Maybe eventually, if he has you caught, he's going to give you a little trash talk. I like there's one thing, I can't remember if that's season 3 or 4 because remember I watched these a lot, but there's multiple times in 3 and especially in, what is it? No, it's 4. So I'll say that. But there's a few inklings of multiple times they could catch a character, they could kill a character, but he lets it play out because either he wants more information, either he's playing a long game to see where they go back. So I like that approach of it's kind of the one step back but 2 steps forward in the sense of if he lets a rebel or Ezra or Hera get a win here, sure they win the day, but Thrawn's all about winning the battle, right? Winning the war. So I like that stuff, but as I'm going the long way about it, I do agree. I think Taylor already alluded to it. And there is other moments where, so you get introduced to him, like Taylor says he likes artifacts. And there's one episode where, I can't remember what the whole conversation is, but he just loses it on this guard. I think it is about art, right? Or something like
it's about Hera's.
Like you don't appreciate that. And the whole season at this point, this is probably about like a third into it. He's been calculate, like I said, Hannibal Lecter. And Hannibal Lecter, if you think about him, the Anthony Hopkins ones, he never loses it. He never gets really emotional. He's always even keel. We're Thrawn, and I felt like it was such like I get it because that's Thrawn's character, but I felt if you're gonna make this character snap and kind of lose it, it should be for a bigger moment or later on. So that was very odd. And then there's other things with the characters I don't enjoy of like, and I'm not sure you can fill me in too in the books and even canon books now as far as what they've done. I don't need him to be at times like he's like in a tank top and he's jacked and he's fighting robots and he's like like he's one handing a robot. Like it just is like, it doesn't compute. And I don't know if they needed that for this show, especially because really, if you look at what they do in this season, little spoilers for 4, which we will review in the next episode, I don't think they put him in a big fight where it's like, oh, it's him and Ezra on a scaffold and they're fighting for their lives. Like they never really use him in a big action way. So I think there's some missteps with him, and I think him being older will be kind of better because I don't think they'll be doing those things. As far as him losing it, the psyche, I don't enjoy that aspect because I don't think it was earned the times they did in this show. I'm not saying it can't happen, but the way they did it just felt very quick. But again, like they were saying, it is a kid's show. You only got 22 minutes, so you have to tell these things over. But he is in both seasons 3 and 4, so you could take your time. So that's where I am, where I really like Thrawn. I think he's, I don't know, we've never done like a villains ranking. I don't know if he'd be in my top 10. Probably not. I'd have to read the books. But he is a fun character and a different type of villain in the Star Wars universe. Because if you really look at them, for a throw of Taylor, like who are our villains? You got Darth Maul in the first one, Palpatine. Palpatine's in the shadows, don't really count him. Darth Maul, he's just a silent goon, right? Okay. Count Dooku, he's much more of like a personal villain. He has ties to Yoda, ties to Obi-Wan, ties to Qui-Gon, and he's more on the side of, you're seeing the Jedi turn to the Sith, but still trying to betray that. Where Thrawn's not really sympathize and be like, "Oh, I used to be with you, but now I've seen." Like, no, he's like, "Oh, this way." Like, he's very mission oriented. Obviously, Anakin, we know his story in 3. Vader is not like Thrawn. Emperor, you can argue Emperor is calculating, but you only see that in 6, and then in 7, that's not Kylo Ren. That's definitely not Snoke. That's not. Gosh, who else is there? What's Domhnall Gleeson's character's name?
Hux.
Hux, yeah, that's not Hux. He's whiny, and then Palpatine just comes back. So I do think for the Star Wars universe, there are other villains like this type of character, Thrawn, but I think in the Star Wars universe, he is unique. So I know I said a lot there, but I've never spoken about Thrawn. So now the ball's back to you, sir. So that's how I was going to start you with, him shaking people and whatnot. I imagine that one probably wasn't an aspect of his character that was in the legacy stuff. And is it stuff they brought over to the Disney canon? Does he have freakouts, or does he, because I know
That's
Zahn
the
is
only freak out.
Yeah, okay.
Only one I've ever seen.
Yeah, yet.
Yeah.
Ahsoka's coming.
Does
that worry you though? Because Dave's the one that
does.
writes that, and Dave's the one writing this, right?
It absolutely worries me, but I don't feel total worry because I'm at the same time because I'm pretty sure that they brought Timothy Zahn on board and had good conversations with him about some of these things and.
But this show,
I think about with Thrawn particularly.
No, I know, but I mean, with this season, he was like, "Yeah, I want to see Thrawn shake some people."
Reading it about, not about this season, but the live action Ahsoka show.
Oh, okay.
You said,
okay.
I'm worried in the future. I gotta make sure that was a real thing. Yeah, so they definitely had conversations with each other. Dave Filoni consulted the author Timothy Zahn about Thrawn. For some of this stuff and the bringing Thrawn to life in the Ahsoka series. But anyways, with this season, that's the biggest red flag for me was what they did with him shaking this Imperial officer and getting pissed off at him. Totally out of character, both in the extended universe and the canon stuff. You can interpret Thrawn however you like because everyone's going to differently. That's the beauty of individuality in Star Wars and all that stuff. But for me, that is not Thrawn. He... fighting droids and stuff like that in a tank top, that's not really my Thrawn either.
Does he fight people in any of the books?
No, he's so tactical, he doesn't need to.
It
He's
felt
usually on
odd.
the bridge. He's on the bridge of his Star Destroyer. That's all he needs.
Yeah.
That's all you need out of him, really. But though that's stacked up. It is very peculiar for this interpretation, and it's not stacking with what I have learned through Thrawn. He doesn't emotionally get compromised, and so the Thrawn that I'm used to is he's calculated. He makes good conversation. My favorite Star Wars book of all time, the first canon Thrawn book. It is.
That's your favorite Star Wars book of all time.
It is absolutely incredible. Again,
wow.
My only con is that it focuses on Governor Price, before she's governor, and her uprising and how she forms an alliance with Thrawn. But it also has Thrawn's beginning and how he starts off. And the whole time, in every single book, even the like this trilogy and the Ascendancy trilogy with Thrawn, you're never seeing or reading it from Thrawn's perspective. You're reading it from other people's perspective. And let's say Thrawn alliances, you are dealing with Anakin, Padme, and you're getting like, oh, Anakin started to think like this, but Padme was doing this, and then Thrawn comes in, and it's always that Thrawn is the outside force as he's written, and I love that because it helps you, not necessarily like understand him, but it helps you retain that sense of mystery to him, and it just puts him in this position of power, and I am so happy that he is dealt like that. And
so why don't you like the first book with Price being the like a main character there?
It focused,
you know, it's your favorite book.
I need to actually compare how much like book time there is between the two characters, because I feel like Price's story was much more prominent over Thrawn, even though Thrawn's on the cover, and I would have liked a little bit more Thrawn and his story and what he's up to.
And isn't the book just called Thrawn?
It's called Thrawn, yeah. But I mean, it's just the book alone, like what you get, like seeing Thrawn rise up through the Imperial Academy, rising up through the ranks. It's just one of the greatest things that I've read. It's totally just speaking my language. So getting him as a Grand Admiral in this show and having him not necessarily displayed as the same way, I like how he's written. Like he's there and he is... You can kind of like see he's just another character at times. You can just kind of like you're behind him and you can kind of see that he's just kind of the same and how he talks with other people. And I just wish that it was more like we get to see other people dealing with him, but the show gives us that sense of like, oh no, we are seeing him dealing with other people, if that makes sense. Like I like seeing the perspective and development of the other characters, but in this show we're getting the perspective and development of Thrawn. Example one, him shaking a guard. Not everyone appreciates art like I do. Or he's fighting droids in his back room. Like, I don't need to see that personal stuff. The personal stuff I like to see unfold where he's lured into a lab that he's not supposed to go into off hours without permission from a high-ranking officer. And we're not seeing it from his perspective. We're seeing it from his classmates' perspective that thought they were going to get him in trouble, but he fucking one-ups them with pulling a cheesy one. Like that's the kind of thing
they kind of do. I think they did that with the Hera episode though, when she's at her home turf and she's going after that artifact that belongs to her family, and then she bumps into Thrawn. She's pretending to be a slave, and Thrawn kind of for the first 5 minutes goes around with it and plays her game, but the whole time he knows that it's Hera or knows something's up, and then the switch happens. So I think that episode's a really good example of the Thrawn you're asking for.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. I think that the show needed to do a lot more of that, and they weren't able to, because again, it's just you can't have him guiding other characters in the show, especially those characters are just kind of one-offs. Like I'm pretty sure it was the finale for this season when the planet was evacuating and the two rebel fleets converge on the planet because they're going to do the invasion of Lothal, and Thrawn shows up with his fleet, and the one guy makes a horrible call and goes to intercept the rebel captain's ship, and the rebel captain turns his ship into the interdictor cruiser that was creating the gravity well and ends up destroying it. And I think that there's definitely a lot of Imperials turning on Imperials with Thrawn. It's actually quite humorous, but I would have loved a little bit more of him kind of explaining things. But I digress, because Thrawn necessarily doesn't always explain the plan, but he puts trust in his followers and trusts that his followers will put trust in him and follow the plan to the letter. I don't know. I've just gotten so mixed after seeing him in this, and just how I kind of feel, especially just dealing with the books and the comics. It's very much hitting notes at times, and then the notes aren't in sync, and then they are. It's convoluted.
Hashtag canon doesn't matter, because that is a thing that's supposedly Dave's the books and the comics are their thing, but it's much I don't know. It's like their way. It's like the movies did that with the shows. Who knows what the shows now? But then like now the shows do that with the books and comics. Like yeah, that's their own thing, but they're not that really. They never say they're not canon, but they will definitely go against them. And I don't think Filoni is like I'm not sure. I'm not saying not hearing, but I think like if something he wants to do fits better for him that doesn't fit with the book, he's still gonna do it. I think Favreau as well too.
I agree, and it's not necessarily like I'm holding hopes on like the events being canonized, and that's like, oh, it's got to be a canon event, all that kind of stuff. I don't really care with how Thrawn's story is with that and what they pull from source material wise. My beef is that the written Thrawn is just so much better, and you should just portray your Thrawn like how he is written, and he'll deliver. Because I mean, he's written so fantastically.
I think they do at times, but then there's things where I don't really understand. Like I said, when they make him to be a physical threat, and he doesn't really fight anybody that much. The occasional time he'll like knock someone up, but there's not like a big scene. So I don't know. But let's take our first ad break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So let me get where am I here? Trying to find let's talk about what do you want to talk about next with this, or I guess you say anything on I'm just to find my notes correctly because I was at the wrong spot. Anything else you wanted to say with Thrawn?
I have more that I'm gonna bring up in when we get to season 4. That'll be pretty cool, but I think that's season 4. I think that is everything for now, although I do really, really enjoy that we got to see Thrawn and Bendu interact in this season. I think it was at the finale, and again, great foreshadow from the Bendu, but I loved how with the Force, like Thrawn is definitely hinted at in the show that he's not totally savvy on it, but again, I consider that poorly written backstory for him, because Thrawn is pretty savvy with the Force. Like his culture, they use Force users as navigators, so they don't use droids to plot out like hyperspace routes. They use the Force users because in their culture, kids get the Force and then they lose the Force ability once they hit puberty, essentially. So
I didn't take it that he didn't understand what the Force is. I just took it as that he doesn't have a full grasp on how it works, and it's nothing that he can. There's all these other things he could try to figure out and maneuver and get, but he couldn't figure out this, which does honestly kind of fit with the Mandalorian stuff they're doing right now. If they're trying to get Grogu and remember Moff Gideon was trying to make himself Force sensitive, right? So that would kind of fit actually with Thrawn, because I just took it as it's just something that he hasn't been able to nail down on as far as like what is this thing. And I do like that that's a character that, again, it's tough because you have Inquisitors and Jedis now. It's not like the original trilogy where no one believes the Force because they can't see it. Everybody has the fucking Force in the show, but I liked that aspect where it's something he can't master. But yeah, how did you feel about Bendu overall? Because I feel like definitely, Filoni and company, they love their animals tied. We'll get a lot with season 4. Animals or creatures tied with the Force, and I'm like mixed on it. I like when the Force is a bit more spiritual. I don't think I need, the whales I wasn't hard on last season, but the whales, what happens in season 4, I think it's just there's just too, I don't know, it's just, and even just this this just random space being out there. I don't think it's the worst thing, but it's something that I don't love as an addition. So like I said, the higher concept stuff has to be done really well, and I think this is just kind of fine.
Yeah, the Bendu is interesting. I like that he's just a creature that exists in the between. Like he doesn't take sides. He understands the Force.
Classic.
But he's I don't know. It's very, very new for Star Wars, I'd say, because we never had that in the live action stuff. I dare say though that it's the episode 9 that would have been Colin Trevorrow's, where I got that like spider Sith being that's on the like giant being creature. Like that was very opposite Bendu like, and I think that it actually would have been pretty cool. And so when I think about that and that concept,
It is it's not exactly opposite. I get what you mean, but it's not as far as like it's another big creature that's like, hey, I know everything about the Force, you know?
But like I meant like opposite, like dark side, whereas Bendu
Yes,
is more
exactly.
positive.
Yeah.
So I'm very open to this concept, and so seeing it with the Bendu, it's not so much a negative thing for me. I think him speaking English, which I get for the kids, is why they did it. I would have liked it if he's speaking some other alien language, and then you just have like Kanan translating or something like that. That would have been really cool, but it is what it is. That's not a deal breaker for me. I like how
Yeah.
Bendu went full rage mode and just created the storm and all that stuff. That was pretty cool. But yeah, interesting character. Didn't last long, and yeah, it was there for Kanan when Kanan really needed guidance, which I liked.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm happy. There's things about the Trevorrow script that I like, but I'm happy we didn't get that. I don't need no Force Spider and stuff.
No
So
Coruscant.
no. Coruscant was good. Coruscant's fine. I just needed this all-knowing animal. Just you start getting into stuff, but yeah, and obviously at that point we kind of get a little bit back and forth because to take off a Bendu, that's where Kanan kind of finds himself again. We talked about this Kanan at the beginning of the season. Obviously he's been blinded. He's kind of not lost his way, but he's very absent from the team. He's just trying to figure his own stuff, and eventually, he gets back with lots of good talks from everybody. He gets back there. But as we were mentioning, Ezra, has a Sith holocron from last season. He's pulling from that, being more powerful. Of course, it's all the tropes, and I think they're done well. I'm saying tropes, but not in a bad way. As far as, hey, they're using dark side magic, what's going on. They talk him out of it, and they give it to Bendu, and then you get this great episode. We can kind of talk about the Darth Maul stuff here. And maybe we'll just cap off, talk about his whole journey as well too. That he wants the holocron back, so they got, which I think is like a little convoluted. It was weird that like in episode 2, Kanan's like, here's the holocron. Then literally episode 3, it's like, okay, we need it back. Like I almost think they could have spaced those out. It was a weird pacing thing, but I like the episode. Darth Maul's going to kill, all their friends if they don't get it back, and they got to give him the Jedi holocron. And I like this thing that, again, he still has a connection with Ezra, and we talked about this last episode where I really love the line where it's like, you betrayed me. He's like, well, no, I didn't. But if you think about it, like, I didn't betray you. I just betrayed your friends. It's very different. But I liked that the whole time he still would like Ezra to be his apprentice, and I really love this connection thing that they have that they're using. We got a little bit of this last season, but more so this one, and it sets up for probably everybody's favorite episode of this series, I would say. They are trying to, unlock these holocrons. Then together they can get their answers. But the flip of what happens is Ezra gets the answers that Maul's looking for, and Maul's getting the answers that Ezra's looking for. Now, eventually, when Ezra or Maul forces their hand, then of course, yes, then he kind of gets more of the answers. But yeah, and Maul, we get him in the beginning, we get him a little bit in the middle. Of course, we kind of get the Force vision. Really like this episode of Ezra's kind of having these. They got to go to Dathomir, but he's having these visions of Maul just hanging around at their base, and he's like, Ezra's almost like killing guys and stuff.
Fuck.
So Kanan's like, open your eyes, and then like this poor just like rebel soldiers like, no. But the Dathomir stuff, I all like too. That stuff where people might think I wouldn't, but that's like it's Force supernatural enough that I enjoy that. Like I said, that's more the spiritual thing, so that's a really good episode as well. But then of course it finally leads to oh God, what am I? Is it the episode just called The Twin Sons? What the hell's that episode called?
I think it's Twin Sons.
Yeah, Twin Sons, where Ezra's chasing out Maul. Where's he chasing out Maul? Back to Tatooine, and because Maul's gotten these answers of he's alive on Tatooine, but he's also seen that there's a chosen one. You get to meet old Ben here. Ben Kenobi's in here, and lots of big stuff goes down. Ezra is just used as bait. Ezra didn't fare too well, but it's more about Darth Maul and Kenobi, and they have not really a big showdown. They have a showdown, but I think what it is, it's good to see where Kenobi's at, and I love that many people, I can't remember who it was, I think it was O'Hara or somebody, just says like, if Kenobi was alive, why would he just be hiding? He'd be helping us out, and obviously they kind of answer that. So what do you feel about this? What do you feel about Maul's overall? Because this is Maul's end, right? And I think that's also a controversial thing. I and many others, I think, were kind of hoping that he would work his way back to live action, and I've always said that I think there's a version of the Obi-Wan show that's better if you take out Reva and Vader and you do this. I think the Maul thing, it works because I'm of two minds because Maul really became a great character in animation, but I wanted to see that brought over. But as an episode, it is great. I think all the stuff they do with Kenobi's really well, as he's, wise Kenobi giving Ezra, information, talking about why his fight can't be there, obviously because of Luke. And I think what everyone's talked about before is, it's a home run as far as it's a very touching moment with Maul and Kenobi surprise you, these hatred people, but Maul has hope that Luke is the chosen one just because he can take down the Emperor and take down the Empire and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on with Maul, and it's a sad end because I think they made a great character, and I think Rebels is my favorite version of Maul because I like the really slinky, very desperate type of Maul. But what do you feel about Maul in the season? And I forgot to mention, of course, Kenobi kills him. So yeah, that happens, and his end there. So what do you think about Maul? And any of the Ezra dark side stuff too, you could tie in here as well.
I think that you're pretty spot on with how they should have tackled at least the live action Obi-Wan show. I would have thought that they could have done a 3-part, each episode be like an hour long and just have it focused on, call it Twin Sons. It doesn't have to be called Obi-Wan, but just give us that arc of Maul just trying, like, on the prowl walking on Tatooine. Just open up like that. Just literally the Rebel stuff. And then you could have Ezra show up and people would know because we have Rebels. This could be like a side mission in between Rebels. Be like, oh wow, we're getting live action Rebel stuff. This is great. But at the time, they didn't know what they were doing with it, like thinking that we're gonna get live action stuff. They're just committed to the animation, which is fine. But the battle between Maul and Obi-Wan is just so fantastic, and I love the callback you get to Qui-Gon fighting Maul here because it's just their. What's
it's
that?
Like 15 seconds. You're like, it's so fast. It's like, it's just 15 seconds.
It is fantastic because there's so much going on in this scene. Just the tensity and just the fact that Obi-Wan transitions from his stance to Qui-Gon's stance, and Maul goes in. This is why it's fantastic. Maul goes in and does the same killing blow that he pulled on Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan just counters it, just foolproof. And I love that so much. So, yeah, I think that it's great. You're right. Sentimental. Him having that connection with Obi-Wan here and just kind of coming to terms like, yeah, he's the chosen one. He'll take them all down for us. This is great. So I like that a lot. Maul having this Dathomirian hideout is very cool. Him doing very this cool ritual was intense. Just seeing the Night Sisters just take over Sabine and Kanan like they did. Very, very intense. This is where the Darksaber comes into play for the first time in Rebels, which is very interesting. Yeah.
I did the whole time we talked about that because I didn't think I'd be rewatching Rebels, but when we talk about Mandalorian season 3, now when I see the Darksaber, I just hate that thing now. It just makes me again Mando season 3 just woof what they did with the Darksaber, but whatever.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is.
It's hurt these to me because these shows. This is why I don't understand because Filoni was a part of these. I just feel like these shows, like referring back to Clone Wars as well, talk about that being so important, and I don't think that was the case in live action, really. So it's disappointing.
Yeah, no, they definitely didn't capitalize on some things with it. That's for sure. But yeah, I think that everything with Maul was really, really well done in this season, and yeah, he meets his end. What was the other thing that you mentioned?
Anything with Ezra and that dark side stuff and everything. I know you touched upon, but anything else?
I liked how Ezra was just trying to figure out what the weakness of the Sith is and all that. That was his main objective, and him kind of like sauntering off and disregarding Hera's orders. I feel like this is one of Hera's faults because she keeps treating the Jedi like they're soldiers. And yes, I get it. They're ranking military officials in her squad. But when they're having something happen to them, I think it's very important. I think that's where non-Force users, like, it makes sense for her character and others because they don't understand. So then they're going to say, oh, you can't go off. We need you right now for this mission. But it's like, no, Ezra has to leave. I mean, you want him to stay? He's on the base and he's about to kill all these innocent crewmen, and because he thinks he sees Maul, which was just fantastic. How long of a sequence that was, because he's just totally freaking Ezra out. And I liked it a lot more too when the Bendu's like, if you wish to see Maul, don't turn around. And Maul was there. It's like, is this a vision Maul or is this like really Maul that's here? But again, all in all, very, very cool. I love Maul's gauntlet fighter. That's a really, really cool red taste to it. But yeah, everything with Ezra was very enticing and very interesting, and just him overcoming this darkness and even managing to take on Sabine and Kanan and being able to save them from the Night Sisters was very impressive.
You go.
I was gonna transition on to some other Ezra things with another character, unless you had something.
My quick question for you actually is going to be in any of the, because I forgot to ask this when we were on Thrawn. In any of Thrawn books, does he talk with the Emperor?
Yes, actually.
I think that was missing from this show. That should happen. Spoilers for season 4, it doesn't happen. So I feel like they should have showed, unless they're like saving some sort of flashback for Ahsoka. I feel like I needed that as well. I think that was a miss.
When he, like his first meet basically on one of the Outer Rim planets, the Empire was setting up doing stuff. He basically knocks a stormtrooper, takes over, like hides in his gear, and then gets arrested on the Imperial cruiser. And because of how unique he is, being from the Chiss ascendancy, they basically the guy's like, oh, I'm gonna take you to the Emperor, because he's one of the Imperial like higher ranking military leaders. So he's like, okay, take you to the Emperor, and he speaks to the Emperor with his translator Eli Vanto, and the Emperor basically is like, okay, we're gonna put you into the Imperial service if you pledge allegiance to me and all that, because the Emperor wants to learn more about the Outer Rim, because it's the Outer Rim. Thrawn is a huge factor here, and you learn this in some of the other books, that he helped map a lot of the Outer Rim for the Empire, hence why Palpatine was able to set up certain secret laboratories out there and all this kind of stuff. So he was a big asset. Thrawn in the books has many conversations. He's like an Emperor favorite, you could say.
Yeah.
Remind me, though, when we get to season 4, because there's a lot of stuff with Thrawn and the Emperor and in between Rebels episodes that we'll talk about. So just remind me when we get to that. But
yeah, but they don't actually interact in season 4.
In season 4, the only interaction we see is when the hologram and him and stuff like that. But that's it.
Is there? Did I miss that?
It's this like fake hologram.
Oh, yeah, that's it. It's not. It's like
it,
it's like the Chancellor Palpatine, like that hologram. Yeah, I mean, I think we needed like a meeting of just those two separately with no other characters. I would have liked that, because I feel like that would add more on. He was a part of the original crew, kind of, right? Because he's not in the movies, so it's just like, who's this guy? That, especially in the shows or in Ahsoka, they're like, oh, he's the heir to the Empire. But it's weird that he's the heir to the Empire when it's like, well, he's never really talked to Palpatine. He has, but not for what we've seen, right? So
it's a shame too, because even again, it's season 4, which we'll talk about. But Tarkin's like, oh, I've set you up with a meeting with the Emperor. You got to get to Coruscant. So Thrawn's like, okay, I'm going. And that's something they don't show. That was like the penultimate episode, I think, or like a couple episodes near the season 4 finale. But again, we'll talk about that in season 4 retro. With Ezra, him following back with Hondo, I'm really, really thankful for, because Hondo really popped off. And I feel like Hondo really started to turn rebel in this season a little bit. Well, more season 4 for sure, but he teamed up.
He's always still asking for money, though. He's always asking what this job's gonna cost,
he always does. Yeah, he'll do the good deed, and then at the end he'll be like, "Oh, so what's the success? What's my my cut from this?" But he's working with that red alien that I don't really like. But I love that Ezra just was teaming up with Hondo, because they were gonna go board this Imperial cargo cruiser, and that was a little bit of a scary episode, but it was very, very cool, just when you get abandoned ships and stuff like that. But obviously Hondo was lying and bullshitting. And the thing that I really liked, and I felt like it was really savage for a kid show, is because Hondo's standing there and he's talking to the crew of the Phoenix crew and trying to get them in on this deal. And he's like, don't be blind to this amazing business opportunity. And then he apologizes to Kanan. And then shortly after that, he ends up saying, because Kanan says, so, I'm inclined to agree with Hondo here. He's like, oh, wise one, I knew that you would see things my way. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry again. He's just such a prick. But you love him.
Oh, yeah. My God. I love Hondo. We need him. I'd take a Hondo show, man. Make that Maybe he can pop up in Skeleton Crew or something like that. You know, that sounds like it would be for him.
That'd
So
be a good fit. Yeah.
yeah, I hope one day to see him. But the one guy we're not going to see because I'm just going off random notes. Again, I should mention this with Thrawn, but this will come up because, you know, the notes are kind of scattered throughout episodes. I really like that sequence when they have the new people that have joined the Empire and they kind of were on the other side, or they're just new recruits, so they're all shaky and scared. Ezra and Kanan are doing like kind of a stealth mission. They established pretty early on that Kanan can't see, but it's very like Daredevil, like can't seeing, where it's like he can't see specific figures and shapes and colors, but like he can see. The man can see it. Like they don't even make it like, at least with Matt Murdock, they'll make him like be talking to you in the action. His eyes will be looking the way. Kanan will just be full on looking around at stuff. So it's like, okay, I get it's a kid's show, but I like when they're undercover and there's this guy that fixed this bike and Thrawn wants him to test it in front of everybody and he like gets a high velocity. You got to keep going. And the bike explodes, kills the guy. Super dark. That's to me might be the darkest. Like there's tons of things on this show, but I think that might be the darkest one. Him just literally making this guy kill himself in front of everybody. I love that for Thrawn. I thought that fit and I thought it was a good episode. Okay, everybody, everything you make, you're going to test yourself, because whether it's they suck or whether it's that they're on purpose trying to mess with the Empire, he doesn't want anything of it. He wants the best, or he wants people that are loyal. And if you're not going to be loyal, he'll kind of scare you into it. So really, really liked that aspect of Thrawn there. So
I think that's probably why I have such a interesting like change perspective with Thrawn, because for the most part in the books he's dealing with other threats, not really the rebellion. And I get it, the rebellion are terrorists. So when you see him do something like that, like, yeah, you're going to test all the equipment that you build. Like it is an interesting development for that character, but then it's not something like he's not done an equivalent to that in really the books. In the books, he's sparing. I don't want to say like he's very like merciful and sparing, but he's very much like not just going to throw life away like that. I feel like he would have come to that conclusion through alternative means, or
do the most of the books though,
you.
what is the, because I know there's one book where there is with Darth Vader, but majority of the books, what's the time period on them? Is it the dark times?
Well, yeah, they're all the dark times.
Okay. I just wonder if there's some transition of time, but yeah,
well, the trilogy that I showed you with Thrawn joining the Empire, that's the Dark Times. And then you have the Ascendancy trilogy, which is Clone Wars, which you get some really cool stuff there. And then, of course, the Heir to the Empire trilogy, that is after, that's Legends, but that's after Episode 6.
Well, that I know. Yeah, I know. So, yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, one note I had, and I think this is why maybe I'd probably prefer 2 to 3 for seasons wise. I think this season has a bit more filler and stuff. I think there's a few more adventure episodes, which is fine. They can still be good. Just like I imagine episode 6 was for Taylor, which I said another one that was just your wet dream. That's the one where they get to the facility and there's a bunch of the droids from the Clone Wars left over, or no, like before.
It was okay.
Really?
I needed more clones. I'm a clones guy, not a droid
Oh,
guy.
I thought you'd just be, you got that. You have that commander droid. The clones and the droids are working together instead of fighting.
Clone,
I thought that
just clone.
Well, a clone, yeah, a clone. But I thought you would have been all over that episode there.
It was fun. I'll definitely give them that. I thought it was fun seeing the Galactic Empire there with the droids was very cool, because I feel like that's like something out of Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah, it's
like
meshing
one of
with
those
the eras.
kooky missions. Yeah, so that was neat. But I'm not like ride or die hard on that.
Oh wow, I thought you would
episode.
be. And then I like that the droids, because they do this almost like math equation, and they just realize that okay, now the Empire has become the Republic or whatever they call it. Like they pretty much just figured it out. Like okay, these are now the new threats. That was funny. There's also one thing I liked where they're escaping with some of these droids, and then the droid jumps and he grabs on the ship, and he's like, "I made it!" And then he falls, and he didn't make it. So. Sucks for that droid. So
seeing Rex and Kanan work with some of like their old Clone Wars tactics, I really enjoyed that. And Ezra not really kind of like cluing in, but like learning on how to like operate and how to do this. And Rex just like, I'm not paraphrasing, but like, smarten the fuck up, kid. Like just like gives him a hard time because Ezra wasn't doing the routine correctly, and it was like. Yeah, there was serious PTSD for Rex throughout this drill.
Uh, when Gwen was watching this episode and they pitched the plan of them shooting them, Gwen's like, "Why are they going to shoot them? I thought they were on the same team." But then she eventually got one, so I had to explain it. But she was so confused of why the droids were going to shoot the Jedi, and I had to explain the whole deflecting thing. So, yeah, we might get there. We finished it, and she was happy, and she said we're gonna watch all the Star Wars. But then she definitely needed a break, and we went to Spider-Man. So we'll get back to Star Wars eventually here. Yeah, let's take another ad break. We'll be right back. And we're back. So I was going to mention too, episode 8, another kind of filler episode. The character does come back, but that was very disappointing. I remember it was disappointed because that's an episode where even in the teasers they kept showing the Falcon, and even the descriptions like, "Oh, Ezra meets like a scoundrel part of a crew," and it's not Han, and it's just some like Ezra clone. And I get what they were trying to do, and I don't mind that because it was like a character that looks similar to Ezra, had the long hair, and I think they're trying to show like, look how far Ezra has come, and like the moves at this, and I think it's a good episode for Ezra. So I should say it's filler. I'll take that back. But just the actual venture, it doesn't have much to do other than just it is to portray as I take it all back actually, because you do link up with this character. I do, because I guess it's because after that 7 and 9 you also get some filler as well, and the droid episode I think is kind of filler. Like, and again that's still, they can be fun adventures, but it is a good. Here's the thing. I don't enjoy the episode that much. I don't return to it, but it's good because you get to see how far Ezra has come. This is after he's kind of denied the dark side. You get to see how far he's come, and you get to see how much more wise he is. So I thought they did that well. Let's see. Yeah, after that, there's more kind of some of the bigger stuff. So I'm not sure, is there anything you wanted to touch upon? Because now I got some notes for kind of like episode 15 and on, and those are some of the bigger moments.
I'd probably just touch upon like the Sabine stuff, because it started off at the start and then it kind of fizzled out, and we didn't get anything till like the end when they came to assist. But I'm getting it confused with season 4, because the start of this season, was it not them rescuing Sabine's dad, or was that season 4? I think it was this season.
No, season 4. So we can go there now. That's the start of this. Is obviously, you mentioned the Darksaber, because they go to Dathomir. She sees that, grabs that, right? And they link up because in it's episode 16. That's when, and that's why I will say you're right, because she goes away for quite a bit. But the stuff we do get, episode 15, we get the origin of her, that she made weapons for the Empire not knowingly, and they used them against them, and she was cast out. And 16 is the one with her mom, where she has to go there, and the only thing that saves her is her having the Darksaber. They have all those conversations, and it's about, at this point she still thinks her dad's with the Empire, but that's when her mom lets her know that actually he's with the Empire kind of against his will. So this is kind of all like 15 and 16 are all the setup for her to go get her dad back, to rebel more, to eventually find a leader, because they kind of set that up, which I don't mind, of, oh, you should be the leader, and she realizes, oh no, like I don't think I should be the leader, but I could find the leader of the new Mandalorians. But I think that this season did great stuff with like I said, she does disappear at times, but for the time she's in there and the storyline they gave, tons of great backstory with her character, not only just with the family, but just also just the making weapons with Empire, which comes back multiple times. So I thought all that stuff was a home run.
Yeah, I agree. I think the building of the weapons for the Empire was definitely a very neat twist that they threw in there, because she had a lot of emotional baggage, and I'm very excited to see how that's going to carry over, because her first master was technically Kanan, and in Ahsoka, her next master is Ahsoka. So
yeah,
very
and
interesting.
It's interesting. I haven't dropped in the Discord yet, but there's like if you kind of do the bridge of masters, it goes Obi-Wan to Dooku to Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan to Anakin to Ahsoka to Sabine. So that's Sabine, you could argue, is like getting the very best training. Like, as far as why do you look so confused?
I'm trying. Sorry, repeat the whole line again.
Well, look at this. So it goes from like
It's
the masters,
Yoda,
right? Yoda goes to Dooku,
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan, Anakin, Ahsoka, Sabine. So like you could argue she's the best lineup of knowledge she's learning from with that. That's a killer's row of people right there. Cause
She's definitely not getting any Yoda insight, though. I can tell you that, or Dooku. I don't think.
I think so.
I feel like Anakin definitely took his own route in teaching and kind of like cut the rest off. And
So you think he took nothing from Obi-Wan? as a
No.
Jedi?
He's
I
like,
think he
fuck
definitely
off,
did.
Obi-Wan. I'm gonna do it my
No,
way.
I think he definitely did near the end of Revenge of the Sith. It's just the fact that he kept having those dreams and everything, and that kind of messed him up. But I think the way that lineage goes is the same way as grandparents. There's still probably traits that from like 3 generations ago that we still have because our grandfather had, and then our father had, and then we'll have, and then we'll pass it down. So there's just even certain phrases I say that my dad used to say. So it's one of these things that I think, I'm not saying she's gonna be like the greatest shit of all time, a new Rey, but that's a pretty good lineage to have training wise,
Yeah, it definitely is.
Let's see here. So we talked about Sabine. Let's see. We talked about Hera. I guess we should talk about too. God, I always mess up his name. Callus, right? Callus is his name, right? In episode.
Was this the season that he does the?
Yeah, he does the
Okay.
switch. Because in episode 4, he helps the rebels, and he says he just owes a debt to Zeb, but really that's just like coverage for what's going to happen here. And yeah, I think it's the middle of the season he gets revealed to be the spy, and then because he's the new Fulcrum and he's helping. And I love the episode where he thinks he set it up, and this is where I do think I think they do Thrawn well, where he sets up this master plan that he's doing all these things to make it look like people. There's kind of some heat on him that not that he's the spy, but maybe someone in his area is the spy, and he does all these things that look really risky, but he does a great move to make it put on this other guy. But right away Thrawn's like, yeah, it's definitely not that guy, it's someone else, and it's probably Callus. They don't say for sure, he's just pretty confident, and then he starts putting Callus in situations where he's going to reveal his hand, which he does because he's a spy, so he has to. So I really like that. I know you couldn't have done this in the movies because it's not as long, but this is what I was really excited for in episode 9 when Hux was the spy, and then they just fucking murdered him, and I was like, man, what fucking terrible writing. But I think there's like, we hadn't, again, you're talking about just live action, the movie, like you hadn't gotten that in the movies. Emperor spy that's turning, and I think the show does this really well. Now I will say, we're going to talk about season 4. I think they kind of dropped the ball. I think they had lots of potential, and in season 4 he's just not really in it that much. I think he could have been a great character of the crew, but for season 3 he's actually quite a standout. I don't know if he's definitely on the tier at the other 3, and I've realized that we haven't talked about Hera as much. It's just probably because Hera's just, she, like, her or most of her backstory comes in that Thrawn episode more there, but I think she's constantly a standout in the season with the action she has to do, especially with the Saw Gerrera episode as well. But I really like, as I talked about season 1, didn't like Callus, very generic bad guy, but I do like the switch, and I like that he got out. I like that he just didn't get killed off, and I'll be curious if we never heard about him in live action and stuff. I guess he'd be an older guy, but I'd like to know what happened to him. But yeah, I really like everything here, from the bad guys finding out to Callus' way to get out of there. So
Yeah, him getting the chance to escape during that final battle was really, really good. I liked how he revealed to everyone that he was Fulcrum. I thought that was really funny, and him taking more of a stance on being the good guy, I really, really enjoyed. He's gone through so much development, I'd say, and his whole plan to bamboozle Thrawn, I really liked that. I liked how he was just telling this Imperial officer just to stay on Governor Price because she's a spy. And then when the rebels are all escaping, and this fucking Imperial is like, "Oh, Governor Price is the spy." It's just, and he gets,
and
yeah,
then Klaus, oh God, Callus shoots him. Yeah.
yeah, that was really, really well done. That was great because I'm pretty sure that's when they introduced Colonel Yularen, which I remember him from the Clone Wars. He was Anakin's right-hand man on his Star Destroyer, Venom-class cruiser. So really, really like seeing a return of him. He's also live-action in Andor, which is great. So always love seeing Yularen. He dies on the Death Star. It's sad, but it's the way
Is it sad?
He was a cool character. I felt like even when you see him in Rebels, he's definitely not like a sinister evil guy. He's just there, like, trying to find the moles in the Empire and just try to keep things going. He's a very duty-bound man. So it is what it is. But yeah, very, very cool setup. And I like that they didn't arrest Callus right away. They're like, okay, we're going to play this out, use it to our advantage. And it's funny.
Plus, they didn't 100% know, so they didn't want to like just.
I think Thrawn did. Like, he deduced it like pretty spot on with the evidence he presented and how it narrowed down
but
Callus.
But at that point, it was still just. He was like, I think Here's the thing. He was sure, but he didn't know. He didn't have the proof yet. All this stuff was just like, oh yeah, this could happen, this could happen. But what if it didn't, and then it just blew up in his face? Now that wouldn't be the Thrawn way, but I'm just saying he still had to wait a little bit longer, right? So
That's true. I like how he came down to basically not interrogating him, arresting him, because Callus buggered off to where Ezra hides out, and Thrawn just like walks around the corner and is like, it's too late. It's too late. And then Death Troopers in there. And this is where his fighting comes in, because Thrawn and Callus go toe to toe and they fight each other in this tower. So you have that. But yeah, basically takes Callus and then goes to war.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Callus is part of the crew. He gets out of there and good to go. What episode we skipped over? Anything you want to say on the Saw Gerrera Geonosis episode? I thought that was fun to go back there. It was I heard that. I kind of forgot about this episode. I like that you got Forrest Whitaker back. I like at one point they're having a space battle and Sabine says, "Stupid Santa gets everywhere." So fun little nod there. But again, when I was talking about, they have this moral dilemma where they're going to get the Geonosians for some information or something's happening there. They're all dead except for this one and an egg. And Saw Gerrera the whole time is pretty much just threatening to end the existence of this race, where, you know, the other rebels like, don't do this. But at the same time, it's like, well, we need this information. They're not giving it to us, and we could lose this, this, and this. So I think, again, like I was saying, that's a strong suit of this season, is showing, okay, we don't want to go this far, but what do we have to go this far, and who's willing to go this far? And it trickles over to last season. Saw, he's always a wild card. I think he's used right here and in season 4, and even when we've gone in Andor, I think he's a character that I would grade on you if you had him too much in a show or a season. But yeah, I thought this was a good episode, standout episode.
Yeah, it's always interesting seeing him kind of come back into the fold in different Star Wars mediums, and he's a good character just with how he is written and his own inner turmoil he's experiencing. But man, do I hate him. I hate his motivations, and I hate him so much more after what he pulled in the Bad Batch season 2. It just really, really made me hate his character. Oh, it's such a bastard. But yeah, he's just always got his goal that is extreme and putting it over. And not only the Geonosian stuff, but I loved how he just fucking manifested himself in the Yavin 4 base and was just calling out. You know, this wasn't a recording. This was him, like, he was like there. He's like, I'm gonna speak to these rebels. Where's Mon Mothma? Like, oh, you're a coward. Just calling their whole operation like,
he's never too tactical about his situations, you know? So,
no, he's not.
And I love that right away. Like, his meeting with Hera is great. And that's what I mean, that Hera, I think she has that character stuff more in the middle, and then she's just always sitting out. But Saul's like, oh, I've heard about your battles with the Empire, and she's like, yeah, I've heard about yours too. And she says it in the most like, I do not want to be with this guy. And Ezra's like, yeah, I'm so happy we're all helping out, because he's still a little impressionable. And then Hera has to pull him aside, like, no, like, this guy, like, we got to be careful with this dude. He can't. And then 5 minutes later, he like has an egg, and he's like, I'll fucking destroy everybody. So Hera, like, I like that everyone kind of is. The meeting with Saw goes great initially, and Hera's the only one of like, yeah, we got to really be careful with this guy. And she ends up being right, because Saw is just a fucking wild card the whole time. So,
yeah, everything with Geonosis and Saw was great. And the Geonosian kind of like alluding to the circle within the circle. I like how it's not a definite, like, you can take that in many different ways. You could take it as the egg, you could take it as the poison canisters, or you could take it as the Death Star. I 125% take it as the Death Star. I really, really do, because that was the bulk of the Geonosians, like, thing that they were doing ever since Attack of the Clones.
I'll take it to the Emperor. Yeah, I thought it was just the Death Star, and that's why I thought they like clear them out too, because they don't really want this thing to get out. That's
exactly why they cleared them all out. Yeah,
so
which is just nuts.
Yeah, and I thought it was a fun episode to tie back to Clone Wars and stuff. So that was good. And obviously, what is it? Attack of the Clones as well. So we talked about the Maul episode. I think most of the notes I have just about is the ending, and the finale is pretty much, that's where it's funny. It is kind of a good setup for season 4, because it's a pretty just battle centric episode. The finale, I don't feel like, definitely, again, I know people might put the Twin Suns at the top. I still think that the Twilight of the Apprentice episode last. It's still the top of Rebels, and I think it's easily the top finale. So it's kind of tough when you're comparing the finales. I think it's a really good finale. Thrawn gets away. The Rebels still, they win. They like win the day, I'll say, but they don't like win the entirety of it. So it's a good finale. It's a good setup for what's to come, I think, but it doesn't match what we got the previous season. So
yeah, no, it's all out war. They get off their base and they have to go back to their base. The space battle was very, very cool to see how that works out. But yeah, I'm glad they got that shield generator because Thrawn just pounded the planet. And
yeah,
it's I get it. Like it's having the rebel cells is more valuable because then it means that you probably have a higher survivability rate. And I think that's what Thrawn was looking at this as. But man, he fucking destroyed their fleet. They're like, oh yeah, this guy General Dodana or whatever, he's got the biggest rebel cell fleet. Oh, we're gonna they're so hyped. And that his rebel fleet was, I'm sorry, not that impressive. But
yeah, I need a little help there.
Yeah, it really did. And I like that the rebellion's like, oh, we're not sending help, we're not gonna help you. And it's like, oh, we got some Mandalorians that are gonna come and do some damage. Which I like seeing the Mandalorians come and get all like combat ready. It was very cool. It was very much like Mandalorian season 3 when we get to that little Mandalorian space fleet. So I'm always down for that.
Which makes you wonder where the fuck they all were in the original trilogy. Again, they
got bopped by that time, right? Because the Night of 1,000 Tears took place, so the Empire just bombed the whole of Mandalore.
I guess, yeah. When does that happens after season 4 of this, though, right? Or after Rebels, I would imagine, because I feel like because they're still pretty together in the start of season 4. So we're looking, we're finding, we're inquisiting about information. Not many inquisitors this season. Not really. They pop up, I think, every once in a while, but not a big focus this go around.
The Great Purge of Mandalore began after Bo-Katan was gifted the Darksaber by Sabine Wren. So as soon as Sabine Wren gets that, that's when... yeah, I'm going to lead Mandalore. And
yeah.
Fucking gets it destroyed.
Shows up night, just gone, yeah.
Yeah, that's when she would have given it to, Pickle Moff Gideon.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, so... Or he would have taken it. I don't think she would have given it to it. Or wait, she does give it to him, right? Just as a sign of surrender, right? And it doesn't go well. So Darksaber's gone now too, so that's good. Yes, Taylor, what are your? Do you have any other notes or things you want to touch on about this season before we close this one off?
Let me just look here. Yeah. So when Kanan is training Sabine to use a Darksaber, Kanan admits the Force resides in all living things, but you have to be open to it, and how Sabine is blocked. Which makes sense because they've alluded to that in the season of, in the Ahsoka show trailer, just how Sabine doesn't have the Force, and I genuinely believe that she's gonna get the Force. So.
Yeah, which you've turned around on me because I feel like when we first got that trailer, like, oh, she's for sure getting it, and you're like, I don't really think so. She's not like the Force.
I didn't think so, and then I saw the Rebels scene. I thought, oh, well, they set this up a long time ago, so. Can't argue with
yeah, it really wonders now what happens between episode 7 because you got, I guess we haven't confirmed right about Ahsoka, so we'll talk about that another time. But as fucking what's her name said, Maz, and still don't know how she got Luke's lightsaber, but that's all good, or Anakin's lightsaber, but whatever. We'll get to that in the newscast, but I'm fine with that. I think it's kind of cool. I don't think they're gonna do that. I thought there was a chance they might do that with Din Djarin, but now that Pedro Pascal's not really appearing in the show anymore, according to him, he just does the voice. I don't think so, but I think there's something fun about having a Mandalorian Jedi. Plus, like, that's where the Darksaber was created, right? That wasn't that like a guy who was like a combo of both? So
first Mando Jedi.
Yeah, and then again, who knows what you do with this Rey movie? But if you're starting an order, there's a few people you could bring back and stuff. So who knows? We'll see. I really like all that training stuff. That was really good because she's a good fighter, but this like learning the ways of the Jedi, right? And you can even see in the trailers that she has like certain stances Kanan taught her, and it's good seeing Kanan teach that. And we kind of got alluded to get more in season 4, but Kanan's almost alluding to Ezra that he's really taught him everything he can because like he didn't learn that much, right? There's not, and like he's saying it in a good way as far as because Ezra takes offense, like no, like you can teach me all this. I was like, no, like you know everything, and then Ezra still keeps him aboard, being like, well, you can still teach me how to be like a better person, or things like that. So I like. Ezra. Yeah, no, I just don't want you anymore. I have Sabine, but some good development there as well.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right. I will give this, I think the last one I gave was, I'll give this, I think, a 9. I think I gave Rebels 2 a 9.5. I think I'll give this a 9, I think, because I think it's still a great season. I think it's paced pretty well. Like I said, I think there's a little bit more filler. There's one filler I forgot to mention that I really liked. I liked the episode, but I didn't like the placement. It was episode 18, the whole episode with AP5 and how like Chopper gets taken over and everything. I thought it was a good episode, really weirdly placed like right before the finale. It's like we were getting in we had the Sabine episodes and then we get this very odd cool down. I think they should put somewhere else, but I love when AP5 gets put into space and he's just like, you know what, I'm actually happy here, calm, quiet, I don't need anything else. And then they pick him up. He's like, no, what are you doing, please don't. So AP5 continued to win me over, but so there's a bit more filler this season, and again, filler is fine, but I think it's more filler that I didn't enjoy necessarily as much as some other ones. But I think season 2 was the best one. Of you could have shortened it a little bit and it would have been like a 10. I had some issues here and there, and like I said, there's some writing stuff with Thrawn that I was like, oh, that's head scratching, but for the most part still really good. So I'm an 8.5. Where are you on season 3?
Oh, honestly, I think I'm gonna go with an 8.5 as well. There's some stuff that's not totally my jam. Well, I didn't mind the episode, let's say, with them on the base and the Zeb takes control and charge, and you have the Empire sending out those droids that were kind of like unmarked, and they turn into like it's like the Iron Giant. They're friendly and calm, and then once they get ticked, they turn like war mode. That was okay, but yeah, like there's just some stuff that I wasn't like totally jiving with. And then you have like how Thrawn was kind of portrayed a little bit too. So I love the season a lot. 8.5 is still really, really good for me, but there's definitely some cons that I have with it. So it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. So that's the end of this episode. The next episode will be episode 4, season 4. May the force be with you.
Always.
That was just for the podcast editing, people. And Taylor, I need to grab a drink of water. And so what you're going to do right now, which we didn't do at the beginning of 3, we're going to do 4. That, this is Rebels Season 4 retrospective. We got lots of things going on. Ahsoka's coming up. Blue Beetle, Taylor. Don't mean as insult. I literally keep forgetting that we have Blue Beetle this week, but we do have a DC movie coming out. Taylor, what do we got going on this week, and where can they find us?
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. We got Blue Beetle, no voyage of the last voyage of the Demeter. We got cheesed out by our movie theater in town. But that being said, we have newscasts that have been dropping in. We have side quests that have been dropping on our feeds. It's a good time. We got the Saw retros that have been dropping on the live feeds. And what else is there? Yeah, Blue Beetle. What other movies are coming out? I should really know this, but I'm a new dad. I can't always remember these things. It's hard, just got to take it day by day, minute by minute, second by second. And here we are. Travis got his water and we're back at it. So we're going to be doing Ahsoka in a week's time. And now we're doing season 4 retro for this Star Wars Rebels.
Yes, we are. And I will start because Taylor was just talking. But yeah, season 4 of Rebels. Obviously we're getting down to the nitty gritty, right? We're getting down to a lot of endings here. I'm not mixed on this season. I'm definitely positive on the season. I enjoy this season. Oh, Taylor's going. I'm gonna know my thoughts. I enjoy this season. I think it's difficult for me because, as I talked about in season 3 retrospective, this is definitely the war season, which I love. I love a good war, but there's people like Taylor, others love Rogue One. They love Rogue One for a lot of other reasons, right? But I've always heard, Rogue One put the war into Star Wars, which sure, but that's not why, same thing. Taylor loves the clones. People love other things like Clone Wars. That's not what I personally watch Star Wars for, right? I watch the characters and, of course, the story, but I don't watch for the war of Star Wars. I do like that aspect, and I like that, again, it's there because there will be times where I go, oh yeah, I am down for just like, let's just see some Star Wars stuff. But if I'm on a fucking island and they say, hey, what's the Star Wars content you're going to bring with you? It's not going to be like, oh, I really want the war heavy stuff, the clone heavy stuff, the soldier heavy stuff, etc. And I feel like a lot of this season is that. A lot of the season is lots of battles, but you do in the process, I think they do a good job of showing you, how it's affecting characters, how it's affecting planets, especially Lothal near the end. I think, again, much like season 3, we see the characters kind of struggling with what are we going to do. So I think that's really good. And then I think there's just other choices that I'm kind of iffy on in the back half. I think just choices overall in big canon stuff. I feel choices overall for our characters where it's great that we have Ahsoka coming up, right? And Ahsoka is going to be a sequel character to all these characters, most of them, right? It's going to be a sequel series to these characters that, we know and love. But I just wonder if, and I guess that was always the plan, but I don't feel this show feels complete in a sense. When you watch it, I feel, excuse me, I feel like you still have a little left to be desired, where with Clone Wars, I guess that had the advantage, right? Where Clone Wars ends, and I feel like it ends its stories, but also you have the prequel movies in the original trilogy. For Rebels, it's great now, and we'll have to see how Ahsoka is, but the way it ends, it just doesn't feel complete. It feels like it's just like a big setup. So yeah, it doesn't really feel like a final season in that sense. It does where you're saying goodbye to some characters. And then, yeah, there's just big canon choices we'll get to. We'll get to the Ahsoka stuff. We'll get to some Kanan stuff. We'll get to even what they do with Thrawn and Ezra, where they just don't land with me as much. And it feels a little rushy. The season is shorter, but it's only 16 episodes. So it's only, or it is not only. So it's only, what is that? God, I can't do math right now. It's only 6 episodes shorter than the last 2. And I feel like the other seasons, you could just take out some of the filler and be fine. So I do like the season. I think there's some great moments, but like I said, there's just a few choices overall that I don't love. And it is a more action heavy season, as like I said before, as someone like myself that doesn't not enjoy, but I'm not looking for the war and Star Wars content. I don't, lean to that. So it's definitely, I would say, out of the 4, it's above season 1, but I think I firmly have it below season 2 and 3 easily. So Sarah, where are you on Rebel season 4?
I always forget that it's a shorter season. The 16 episode count, I think each episode half an hour, 16 episodes. I think it's like an 8-hour watch through to get through everything. Whereas the other seasons were like, aside from season 1, like 20 episodes plus, so definitely some extra stuff. But this one felt, aside from 1 or 2 fillers, it was really much like a pretty cohesive, like linear narrative that they knew what they wanted to focus on. I actually really like the time traveling stuff in this sense, and I like the restraint that was involved with it. But also, there's an interesting kind of
don't get into specifics yet.
Sorry.
Jeez,
the idea hits me and I want to talk about it. I just think with Thrawn's kind of like conclusive ending, I'm glad it was very open-ended. I like how they kind of maybe had it in the back of their mind that they would pick the story up again down the road, especially with how they jumped to the end of Return of the Jedi. But
if they don't you, I guess I'll wait till we get there.
Well, I think like they do their initial story and then they could have tackled it in a book or who knows, however they want to explore that. But I think that they probably, and maybe Dave Filoni had it in mind, like I don't think any other director or characters are coming in or like individuals are coming in saying, hey, we're going to pass off Ezra's follow-up story to like Christopher Nolan or something like that. I don't think
they should. Fuck, they should. If they had if they had Dave Filoni directing Heir of the Empire movie or Christopher Nolan, you pick Christopher Nolan.
Nolan,
yeah. I just feel like it's just not. It's great that it is happening, but when you watch it in its contained self, and if there was no follow-up, it doesn't really feel like a conclusion, where I feel like Clone Wars still, even with more story to tell, feels like it is concluded, where this doesn't. It feels like there's so much open-ended stuff. It feels like a show that got canceled in the middle of its run, and to my opinion, the ending of the show.
You say that based on like I feel like it's very much open-ended, like where Ahsoka survives and you get like the scene being Darth Vader walking up to like the crash site and he like picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber and and like just sees the bird flying around, then he walks off in the snow. Like I feel like it's got the same level of open-endedness as that.
No, because in Clone Wars, you get Order 66, right? So they close off all those characters. Anakin, you see become Vader, so that gets closed off. I feel like to me, though, it's like they're literally Vader picking up the lightsaber and then seeing Ahsoka's bird. That doesn't lead to anything. That just knows that they're both on their different paths. With this, it's literally, and I guess we're getting to the ending now. It's literally, Ahsoka gets Sabine. Where are they going? Okay. Where's Thrawn and Ezra? Like, what's the deal there? Like, already that's 2-1. Zeb not so much, luckily, and same thing with Rex and Callus. Like, they get their endings, but I feel like with those four specifically, imagine if you didn't get a follow up. Like, let's say we are in this world right now, right? So we'll see how it goes. But I'm just saying, if you're just watching the show in a nutshell, it just feels very odd for Ezra and Thrawn just to like zip away and they're gone. It's just a weird choice, and I don't even like how we get there. Like, why is Ezra using the space whales to zip everyone away? Like, I don't. That's where I think there's so many choices in the season that they over direct or overwrite themselves to make it just easier, as far as they can just say they won the battle. Or I even would have liked it better if like they won the battle but Thrawn got away with Ezra. It's very weird for Ezra. Like, why does he need to take Thrawn to like the outer rims? Like, it makes no sense in the context. And then he drops like a fucking there's Batman Dark Knight Rises Joe or like post credit, like, oh, I'm gone and I hope to see you again one day. Like, it's just like, what were you saying? Sorry.
There's a lot of other people on that Star Destroyer, right? Like, just a couple people on the bridge got taken out, but like a Star Destroyer has a few hundred to a couple thousand people, so it's not just Thrawn and Ezra alone in space. Like, there's a lot of other personnel on that Star Destroyer that got
now we've
taken
known
out.
that he didn't even kill Thrawn. So like, why didn't he just fucking take a lightsaber and strike him down? Why didn't
He didn't have his lightsaber, remember?
Why didn't he use the Force and fucking push something into Thrawn? Thrawn has no, like, why not use a space whale to fucking kill this man? Like, it's a really clunky, and I don't even know, like, why is that? So he takes the Star Destroyer out, he gets out of there, and I don't know. I'll wait till the show happens, but I just think when I watched it, it was just because I knew that was the ending beforehand, and when I watched the first time, this time, every time I go, meh, this just doesn't feel like a good ending to me. I wish there was if they wanted to make it seem like Ezra was missing, do get to it another way. It just is. But I get it. He's trying to say Lowfall, so I get why he's trying to get the ship away.
If this was how they took my boy Thrawn out, I would have been very bummed. But they always left it open ended. And so I always had hope that, okay, Thrawn is still alive out there, so this is acceptable. It's just a setback. It's not him being killed by space whales. So there's that. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing here, and now that we're on season 4, the book Thrawn Treason. So this book takes place between the last 2 episodes of season 4 Rebels, and this is when he gets recalled by Tarkin's like, hey, your TIE Defender project is compromised with Project Stardust, so I've arranged a meeting for you and the Emperor. So we could have got that as an episode. It would have been cool, but he goes and he leaves Lothal. He goes to chat with the Emperor and Director Krennic, and it gets into this whole really awesome dilemma where he finds out another Grand Admiral is doing his own thing. Anyway, I won't spoil it in case you do read the book someday. It's really good stuff.
And Krennic also gets mentioned this season. I thought we'd see him, but no.
Krennic and Stardust gets mentioned too. So there's lots of stuff going on, and I like that because that's a big thing of contention where you have the TIE Defender program meeting the resistance of Stardust and how they're trying to just get more funds for Stardust and all that jazz. There's something else I wrote on that. It's between those 2 episodes. Yeah, so we would have more. We would have had Rogue One release, obviously, by this time. So we would have had source material to pull from there. You also get Captain Palion mentioned, and we see him live action in Star Wars Mando in that Imperial Remnant meeting, which is very cool. And this was the first mention of him in Rebels. And he is an extended Star Wars Legends character that was brought over, and so he was mentioned in Rebels. That's the only ever time we get to see that touched upon. I can never pronounce them right, but again, the God, it's hard to pronounce. It's the Izalamuri Izalamuri, they're like a lizard, and it basically blocks the force from being used. The Jedi can't use his force powers when one of these creatures is there. It's like a deterrent, and they're in the office behind him usually. But the other thing was the Nogri that was introduced. Rook, very very cool because the Nogri are part of, again, Star Wars extended universe. The Nogri basically, if I remember correctly, their planet got the completely devastated, natural disaster and everything because ships crashed there from the war. There were Clone Wars, and so when Vader arrived, Vader said, "Oh, these are rebel ships that crash landed here, so the rebels are your enemy." And then they're like, "We'll give you supplies and stuff." And so the Nogri were like, "Oh, we love you, Vader and the Empire. You guys are like so helpful." And the sworn enemy is the Rebel Alliance. And so Rook ends up, if I remember correctly, getting into contact with Leia and having this like circumstance just they became allies, and then Leia made them realize that it was Clone Wars era ships that crash landed here and not the rebellion. And then Rook is actually the one who, because Thrawn used the Nogri to his advantage, and then Rook, once he learns the truth, stabs Thrawn and kills him without him expecting it in his like command ship. So there's that, but that's not the case here. Rook just gets absolutely fucking fried and turned into baked goods. Which is a shame because the Nogri are very, very cool characters.
Didn't go well for him here.
It did not. No.
Yeah, and then you got Thrawn. He's in there. I think this is like a. It's not. He's not in it to the amount Vader was in season 2 of Rebels, but he's definitely not into the season amount of 3 that you have here. But I still thought it was good because he's missing for a little bit at the beginning. He pops up here and there. I think he's there for the finale, which is key. I think you almost didn't want to overexpose him unless you were going to make it more centered around him. And I feel like they were definitely more focused on trying to close out the arcs of these characters. I think surprisingly, like. I feel like it's. We'll probably get there. I feel like Kanan really gets the most showcase this season, to be honest, which is, I guess it makes sense with how we lose him, but it just feels a little bit odd that I could use a little bit more last season, even though I really liked him. But with Thrawn, like I said, didn't really love the ending, but I liked everything he did do. I referred this in season 3, or maybe not everything, majority. I referred this in the season 3 retrospective. I love when Mabel tied them together, and we'll go to Kanan next. They killed Kanan, obviously, in this episode. He died, or in the season he dies. Explosion happens at the TIE fighter project cells, whatever's happening there, like some base camp, right? The fuel depot, right? Thank you. And to save everybody, Kane Force pushes the fire, gets Hera in the ship, and then boom, goes away everything. And I love when Price calls him. He's like, "Hey, did you get any of those rebels? The Ghost Crew?" He's like, "Oh no, but we did get Kanan." And I love that she's trying. Oh, that's why he's like, "Why are you celebrating?" And she's like, "Well, we got Kanan, we killed like a Jedi," and then he just like reams her out in a way that's intense and angry, but not too over the top. He's not like yelling out or anything like that. He's just, and this is where he talked about in season the first season he was in there, 3. I enjoy this aspect of, sure, you did kill a Jedi, but you did so much more damage. That's not worth it. To everyone else, they think it's worth it because Jedi, that's a high commodity, right? There's not many rounds. So if you kill them, that's huge, especially for Price. And I love from that point on, Price is kind of working her way up to try and get approval from Thrawn again. Never really gets it in this series, at least. He's always underneath her now. He always is kind of very... I'd say direct when he talks to her, but not in a good way like it was before. It doesn't feel trusting, feels like she's a nuisance. So I really like that. Again, you did take out a huge piece of that Ghost crew, but it was not worth it to lose all that fuel and everything. I really like that, again, where some people might just go, "Okay, well, we did lose all that, but we got the Jedi." To him, it's like, no. Even though that's a very powerful person, that was not worth all this damage, and you really kind of let me down here. And then obviously other things happen, and that kind of, like you allude to your book, he's moved around. They're even talking about he's going to be doing other things eventually. But so I really like that aspect where he was not happy with Kanan. Kanan dying in that way was more of a nuisance. He would much rather Kanan have lived and the fuel depot be fine. But really like that aspect.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's just goes to show the incompetence of some of these Imperial leaders. And again, I don't hold the governors in high regard, really. The governors are not they're not in the position where they should be making military decisions. That should be up to the military to be making those calls. The governors can stay strictly political and govern their systems. But you reminded me of the other thing with Thrawn. Oh shoot! Why am I drawing a blank?
Did I remind you?
Oh, you did, and I can't remember what I was gonna get at with it. Shoot! Oh.
We were talking about the fuel depot, Kanan dying, him being sent off to do other stuff.
Yeah, he was sent out to do other stuff.
Or he was at this point he's just talking about
yes.
it, you know. Yeah.
It's interesting to note because in the book, after he was sent off to go do other stuff, and then he was coming back. Where is it? The Emperor tells Thrawn that they will discuss his loyalties at another time after the Lethal Resistance and Jedi Ezra Bridger are dealt with, and that he's sending Thrawn instructions on a chamber that is to be built aboard Thrawn's Star Destroyer made from the Lethal Jedi Temple, and asks Thrawn to come back to Coruscant for a long talk once Lethal's business is concluded. That's something he tells Thrawn directly. Of course, that does not happen because of certain events, but I really would have loved to have seen that kind of conversation unfold. But yeah, anyways, we get the Jedi Temple whole setup there, which is very neat. I love how that's kind of like a callback because we discovered that, I think, in season 2 when they started showcasing it. And just the different levels of this temple and everything that you can access with it is very, very cool. Now, I don't know if you want to really touch upon the time stuff that they get into now or...
Hang on, sorry, my headphones... There we go. Go ahead. No, like they switched to not you. What did you say?
Did you want to touch upon the Jedi Temple and the time stuff now?
Yeah, sure. Fuck it. Let's get into it.
So I really like how there are still consequences to changing time, in the sense where Ezra thought if he could just reach in and save Kanan here, if Kanan were to live in the situation. It wouldn't matter because then they all die. Like he could pull Kanan into this force out of time place, but that means Ezra would just like disappear and they all die. So I like that there are still consequences. I was trying to think how that applies to like other scenarios. But again, very cool to hear Maz talking, to hear lines from Force Awakens, and just all the different ages all in this area of time and space. It's the Force is something, the energy that's between all things. So it makes sense that they have something like this, but you got to use caution. And it goes hand in hand too with Ahsoka going back, and just it shows that scene of her walking through the temple briefly in season 2, I think it was. So now we get to see how that really ties in and how she survives.
You know, anytime someone just tries to justify this, I just got one more.
Shut the fuck up!
Because here's the thing. I've always said just don't like Star Wars time travel in general, period. Don't like it. It's not for me. Because there is a lot of holes, right? Because, okay, if you do the Kane thing, if you take him out of there, it's like, okay, why don't you just go back and take him out somewhere else, you know? And then like what happens? That entire timeline's messed up. Who knows? You could just change. You start to change too much and too many things. It's just like, well, why don't you just go back in time and pluck Anakin out right before this happens? And Ahsoka can say, oh, you know what happens? This goes down and you kill Padme. Like there's just too many.
Where do you pluck out Anakin though? Give me an example.
So at the temple, you know, when Mace Windu says go sit down and stuff like that, you get a character with knowledge that goes back and you get Luke. Let's say he learns how to time travel. He goes back, pulls his dad, say, hey, what's going to happen is you're going to lose us. You're going to lose mom, all this stuff. Like, whatever you do, if you join Emperor, do not do that. And he would see his son and he would see all this stuff and go, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that. I think it gets there's way too troublesome, especially with the Force being always connected and loops and stuff. Those loops and circles can't happen if you have someone that could just disrupt them. So I don't like the time travel in Star Wars at all. And I'm not a big time travel fan in general, unless it's kind of established already. It's tough with stuff like MCU and DCU because that was stuff that happened in the comic books, obviously for people. And I would get that, right? If someone came to me and said, hey, in Endgame, I don't really like the time travel stuff. I don't like that superheroes now, like Tony Stark and time travel. I go, okay, I get it. For me, that's been there for quite a while, right? Star Wars, that was not a thing till Rebels. And as I said before, I don't like... I'm not saying you can't create things, but I think that massive of concept to me is something that I would have liked. I'd love to get George's opinion on that because, you know, and like privately, because now, oh, it's great. Like, I love Dave and he's doing new things with Star Wars. Like, I don't know how he'd actually feel. And that big of a concept to me is just like, man, that's a tough pill for me to swallow. And then, so that's my thing. If I don't like it in general, and why I dislike this even more, and this brings it down, is because they didn't even have to do it. They could have just said Ahsoka survived that battle. They didn't show, which was so, it's so odd because they do season 2. Like, that's what all this just insinuated, right? Before this World Between Worlds happened was they fought, Vader got away, and Ahsoka was injured, but she also got away. Not that she kicked Vader's ass, she fucking killed him. No. It's just they fought and they got away. The same way Kylo Ren and Rey fought in Episode 7. A tree fell down, the floor cracked, and they got away, right? Kylo Ren was fucked up, right? He probably would have died, but because nature helped him. Same way, Ahsoka could have been dead to rights, and a fucking building thing falls, separate them. So that's where it's just like, why did it have to happen? When I think everybody read that finale as, oh, okay, they fought and she survived. Not like, I don't think anyone was being like, oh, she's dead. It would be different if they never showed Ahsoka in the temple walking away, but they did. So everyone just went, okay, she survived that fight. So why did they even have to do this time travel thing? It makes very little sense. Now, I know the red eye thumbnail people are like, oh, so in the new movies they can like redo Episode 7 and all this stuff. No, that's not going to happen. I don't like time travel, and I don't in this world, and I just don't think it was necessary. Because I think you're more for it, but do you think it was like this? It didn't do anything. It didn't change anything. Like from 2 to 3, it's not like, hey, if we would have had Ahsoka in this moment, this would really help. No, you could have just made her alive, and then she shows up. Even then, he goes back, he pulls her out. She doesn't show up till like 5 years later to be like, hey, Sabine, you ready? Now it looks like the Ahsoka show is kind of retconning that, because I think they're showing that Ahsoka tried to train Sabine in between those times. But like, I don't think it did anything for the show. So I don't like the concept, and I think it was poorly done and poorly introduced. And Taylor's going to give his answer after this ad break. And we're back. So Taylor, go ahead.
I have an interesting kind of quote from Dave Filoni that I think you'll appreciate.
Oh, I got an interesting quote.
Shut the fuck up!
Anytime I could drop that.
He was inspired by C.S. Lewis's novel, The Magician's Nephew. Actually, it's Magician's Apprentice.
So good for him.
Which I think, in retrospect, because I just read that book a couple of weeks ago, actually, and it's very cool how they implied that with the world between worlds. 100% see the correlation now. But getting to what his quote is. The cosmic force that binds the universe together and the living force which is associated with life come together in union. You have to be careful when you're moving through these big, powerful dimensions and what you're wishing for. Filoni cautioned. Everything Ezra wishes for out loud is a dangerous thing to do. If you watch and listen when Ezra talks and he makes certain statements, there'll be a thunderclap, and that thunder is representative of something else listening. There's multiple things going on in there, and everything becomes a choice between how you want to use power and control and influence others. And so, it's not really a thing where you go through one door and out another in a different time. You can gain knowledge of the future or futures that may happen, and you can see things that happened in the past. You can at times choose to alter them, but it's perilous to do so. And when you alter something, you don't know if that's not the way it always happened. Filoni implies that any attempts to change the timeline have already been written into the flow of history, meaning Ezra never really changed history when he saved Ahsoka. He was just doing what he was supposed to do. She was meant to be pulled there. So
yeah, that's like every but that's like every time travel thing. It's like chicken or egg. It's like the Hermione and Harry Potter 4 or 3, right? Or 3, where it's like, okay, if that never happened, how did it happen? I'm just asking you, was it necessary? Like, couldn't they just said Ahsoka was alive after that fight? Like, why did they feel the need to kill her and then bring her back? I don't, especially after season 2, there's no insinuation of time travel. There's no insinuation she's dead. Everyone just figured, okay, Ahsoka's out there. Why? Why was this needed?
I think she was used because if she wasn't, then who else would you throw into this cosmic force.
That's what I'm saying. Why do you have to do it? What does it do to the story? Like if Ahsoka just survived the fight, nothing changes in the timeline.
Then, because you're just saying if Ahsoka survives, then they don't need to do the time travel thing.
No,
right?
because what she survives and then she doesn't train Sabine till later, so she's just off on her own. So it's just like what? Like there's nothing that would have changed if she survived.
What is it that she had to do again? Because she had to go through her own portal, come out her own spot. She didn't like go back to like that point in the past, but she came out in the present time in the temple on Malachor, I believe.
Somewhere,
So
yeah,
I'm just
somewhere.
trying to remember what she was doing though, because I don't think she appeared at all in season 4, did she?
Just here. No, just here. And are you talking about 3? No, 3. So, and I know someone might go like, oh, well, she could just help out the rebels. I get it, but there's also many times where Ahsoka's just been off doing her own thing. Same thing from like the 5 years between this and then. The same thing Mandalorian. She's just off doing her own thing. She's not always with a group of
There's
people.
probably no ship on Malachor because everyone else just fucked off with them. So she was
5
stuck there.
years.
That's what happened. Yeah.
She went in between the worlds and like stole pork and ship and like, oh, I'll take this, But yeah, I just don't think it's like, again, I don't like the concept, but if you're introducing it, fine, give me a reason why, and I just don't think it was warranted here. I think they could have just had Ahsoka alive and that's fine, Mm-hmm. And we haven't used it yet, and I hope we don't use it again. I hope it's kind of one of those things.
It's gonna be in the Ahsoka show. I feel pretty strong that we're gonna see something about it.
And if so, then I hope it is used more correctly, in my opinion. That's a subjective term, but I just mean like I hope it is more fulfilling story-wise. But I hope to never see this ever in the movies. I really hope not. And I'd be completely fine if this was dead and it never came back anywhere. I'm not a fan of it. Just not. I'm happy it hasn't popped up in High Republic or prequel stuff yet. I'm sure maybe one time it will be because there'll be some writer be like, oh, time travel, I love it. But Star Wars didn't need that. Star Wars is already cool enough. So you got the Force and laser swords. Anything else on that?
No, I think that's everything.
Kanan, let's talk about Kanan. He, like I said, he has a big journey. We talked about a bit in season 3, but he's more or less alluding like you don't really need more Ezra. He pretty much just gets visions that he's going to die. He knows he's going to die this day. I don't know if he knows exactly how, when. He cuts his hair to be like a Padawan, Hera, or like I guess not a Padawan, just like a Jedi Knight, I guess, or just... Mm-hmm. I don't know, whatever it is. Jedi Knights also have long hair, so I don't know why he had to cut it that way, but it's fine. Hair with a good joke of, maybe you should let me do that, making, a blind joke at his expense. It's all so I like everything about his journey. I think that's good. I like the character that knows he's gonna probably pass away or die. That's all fine. I like the sacrifice play. That's good. I think for me where my two issues are, one's just a stinger and then one's overall. I really thought the first time I watched this that Hera and Kanan were just together the whole time, but this season really reframed it as they thought about it, but they've not. They've just been close friends. They've not really been together. So it didn't really.
Benefits.
They don't even insinuate that in season 1 to 3, though. It's just hugs and like the holds and stuff. Like, and obviously something happens here, but I feel like that they could have just fucked here in season 4. So I really didn't like them going back, and I feel like they can't. Like, it's probably not their first kiss, but they make it seem like a lot of firsts for the canon stuff. So I didn't really enjoy. I like Kanan and Hera together. I think the voice actors actually have good chemistry there. I like the moments we get here of him saving her and kind of knowing it's the last day with her. I like him just taking those moments, referring to stuff in the past. So I think that's all good. I think it was just kind of weird that I just wish they were together the whole time, and that was fine. So I didn't like them retroactively doing that. Or to me, they just didn't write it the greatest previously because they had some deep hugs there in other seasons. So I just took it as, they're not kissing because it's a kid's show, but they do kiss here. And then the other thing that's weird is the kid reveal is not needed in the finale. I think that's I don't know. It's kind of cheesy to me. It's just kind of like, and she had a son. It's just like, it's one of those tropey endings that is done a million times. And it's one of these things or a character wakes up and it was all a dream. Like, I don't know. And especially if they're insinuating that they weren't really getting it on now, the time that they could have got on is pretty short in between this season. So,
it's so open-ended, and the way they splice that together, any regular Joe Blow could actually think Rex was the father.
Oh, God.
It totally fits, because I was watching, I thought, man, if you didn't know like the pre-existing history of this, just the way that Rex is spliced into this scene with Hera, and just the way they transition to the kid, like, Yeah, he just likes to fly, just like his father, and it's right now.
Oh God! But so yeah, I like Kanan's journey. I think the stuff with Hera, you could have spaced that out a bit more over the other seasons. But we'll get into it too. Maybe we'll talk more about it because I don't have much to say other than I don't enjoy the wolves. I don't like the wolves aspect. We already told the whale. We talked about that with Bindu. Like it's just one of those aspects of it's just getting too like. All right, I get it. These wolves are forceful, and one of these wolves is like a Kanan adjacent, like the Kanan spirits in this wolf. Like, yeah, like it's just like, not for me. It's just like I don't know. I don't know which franchise. But it just feels like it's ripping off. It feels a bit more like medievally, like Narnia sort of stuff. Like I don't know. It's not.
That's it. That's the magician's nephew. That's the Narnia verse. So
Yeah.
Dave Filoni was inspired.
Yeah, wasn't digging it here, and there was just too much of it too, and also just times where they just would be like spirits with the Force, and like we're not gonna be interfering and doing much. But then in the last battle, Ezra just like fucking calls them all, and they just like end up like the army of the dead from fucking Return the King, where it's like, okay, this is a fucking Deus Machina. I didn't like that. So yeah, that all stuff. I didn't mind that they hinted at the Mortis stuff. They didn't talk too much about it. I'm fine with that. As people know, if they are long-time listeners, not a fan of the Mortis stuff. Again, I think that went way to actually have like physical embodiments of like the dark side and the light side was too far. And there you go. That's a semi-George idea, or at least he approved it. But yeah, what do you think about Kanan's journey? And you can talk about the wolves or they're called, like the loaf. What are they?
Wolves.
Lost wolves. Yeah, fuck the lost wolves.
I think that Kanan's journey leading to this point it's crazy. I definitely was sad knowing that it was coming. That episode was just painted in him dying. Like you could just smell it a mile away. It was just gonna happen. And I really liked how humbling it was, and just him really just being thankful for his family, his team, and everything. It was really, really nice to see. And him having those moments where he got the Kalikori back for Hera was very, very nice. And just having but like, oh, like what did he say? Like, oh, or someone had a little bit of like happy juice or happy something or whatever. Like, just because she was
happy
drugged,
juice.
right?
Yeah, that's how she got the child.
Yeah, that's how she got pregnant. Yeah. So I think that all in all, like, it was very sad to see him go, but I like how he was able to have a force, like his eyes mended for a split second, and he was able to see Hera. That was, for the kids.
Yes.
Let's do it. But
Yeah.
all in all, good stuff. I like how he kind of became one with the Force, and the Loth Wolves are very in tune with the Force as well on their planet. Again, just more beings on these planets. They're very in tune with the Force. It's just, I can get down with that. I like their ability of kind of instantly like maneuvering and teleporting, I guess you could say. And I like it because it makes me think of Rise of Skywalker when Rey and Ben were able to kind of like see each other through the Force. I guess in Last Jedi too, they could see each other, and it got so powerful that they could actually transport objects between each other in these different scenarios. And I feel like that's the exact same context here with the Force. They're so in tune with it that they could literally just open up a gateway and just like bump to another side of the planet, which is, I mean, Rey did that with a lightsaber on the planet on Exegol, with passing it along to Ben. So I think it's totally justified. Loth wolves are very, very cool. I like them more than Loth cats, but neat stuff.
Yeah, so you got that, and then Hera again, just doing some good leader stuff here. The rebellion's even bigger now. She's linking up with Mon Mothma. We talked about this. There's a good episode in episode 3 where Saw Gerrera comes back, and I think you have who are the two? What are the two divisions here? Gosh, what is it? Ezra, and it's the other way around. Where Sabine and Kanan, they're like we got to stay on this path, and Ezra and Hera are both kind of considering maybe doing things Saw's ways. Of course, at the end they decide, okay, they're not going to go that route. But again, you get to see kind of the torn how they are with the war. So I like that stuff. So yeah, all that content's good. Ezra, I spoke on, like I said, I think it was a good choice to have the finale back on Lothal because I kind of feel like they saved it, and I like that the plan is like we're just gonna bomb, like we're just gonna keep bombing your. I can't remember what happens too, because they have some plan to outsmart Thrawn, and they think they do, But then Thrawn's like, oh, that's fine. You can do that. But I'm just going to like bomb your home planet. And then they do, and they have to give it up. So again.
Oh, that's in the finale, right? When they recalled, they recalled all the Imperial troops to the dome.
Yeah. So I
like,
like
you
that.
put all my assets there.
I really like, you referred to it earlier, that we do get to see Palpatine / the Emperor. I love that you get to see like the Chancellor Palpatine in his old ways, a good mind fuck, and he's just like Anakin offering the family. I don't know, it's in my head canon. I'm fine with the show. I don't think Ezra Bridger would have been worth Palpatine's time to come like talk to him, really. I don't think so, in my opinion, but it's fine because it's the show. But yeah, he's offering him, family and a chance at that. So I think he has a good, especially once Kanan goes too. We don't get to see it too much, but you really get to see that he tries to take on the leader and tries to be, okay, well, I'm going to have to do these things even if I have to sacrifice myself. And he's pretty much going in there with not a death wish, but knowing it's probably over for him. So I think you see him matured quite a bit, even that last message. I don't know if I love how we get there, but I love, he feels much more of a wiser Jedi, if he could be. He's no Jedi Knight, but he's definitely much wiser than when he started. And even in the beginning of the season, I feel like he's wiser. So I feel like they do a good job. Like I said, I don't feel it's fully closed off if you're just talking about the show, because it's weird he's just out there. And Sabine's like, I'm gonna go find him. Like literally the finale shows like, I gotta go find him. It's like, well, there's no season 5, but I'm very curious what's gonna happen with Ezra coming up.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious too. I don't have much of a problem with how he kind of turned out in the end of this series. I like how he kind of really got in tune with the Force, and he overcame what Anakin could not, because Anakin was provided with temptation as well when Palpatine presented it. Again, Palpatine presented to Anakin in a much more time-sensitive context and situation scenario, whereas Ezra had a little bit more time. But it was very frightening when Ezra was... like his confidence in saying like, I'll never forget you, Mom and Dad, and he brings the temple down, and he turns to run out, and Palpatine's just like his senator or chancellor form is just like, just kind of like stare like, whoa, in shock, and then it fizzles out, and you just get to see like Emperor Palpatine there. It's like, man, this is terrifying, and everything kind of silences as he runs out of there, and then Palpatine's theme kicks in, and you see his like screen walk through the rubble. Oh
yeah.
It's so freaking good. And then you get the Royal Guards come in, and they got this high tech, and they like put him up, and Palpatine's like, execute him and all that kind of stuff, which is really cool. So there's lots of really awesome stuff going on with that, and that's the last I think that Palpatine really pops in. I wanted to show you a sketch here and get your opinion.
Want to see some of my drawings?
Want to see some of my drawings? Let me just zoom in. No, that doesn't work. You'll see it anyways. Here we go. So this is actually from the Jedi Temple in Star Wars Rebels. You can see there's another one here, but then there's this one here. And people initially thought that this was supposed to be... Here's a close-up. People thought this was supposed to be Grogu, Bo-Katan, and Mando, Din Djarin, and then Moff Gideon blowing up. But it's not the case, because we got lightsaber holder, lightsaber holder, lightsaber holder. So, but again, this is just one of the drawings of obviously Yoda's species on there, and you can see there's another one here. So, very cool stuff.
Yeah, maybe could be Grogu, so we'll see what happens there. But I could see Filoni tying that in. But yeah, I don't think that's Moff Gideon blowing up. I don't think that would be important enough to etch on a stone, in my opinion. But yeah, I have my notes here. I like after because Zeb's around. I think the difference with Zeb is he's a bit more serious character, and of course he does have some growth. I do like his budding relationship with Callus. I like that after Kanan dies, he kind of struggles with his kind of morality, and there's that bounty hunter they have throughout the season. He pretty much comes within an inch of murdering him, but I like that Sabine talks him down the same way Kanan talks Sabine down, so kind of passing on that knowledge to her and then passing Zeb, so I like that. And I really like the ending Zeb gets if he gets to go back to his home, like a home planet where his species had hid out, and he gets to bring Callus there too, because Callus is like, he's like, oh, I got to show Callus that he didn't get rid of our species.
Finish the job.
Yeah, he's like, I've been a spy the whole long time. Get out here, Thrawn. But again, in Callus, I like when he walks up, he has the long hair, and I like that he's kind of like a general there. I just wish that we could have used a little bit more of those two specifically, and those two and specifically Callus, because I really like that. We talked about then the season 3 one. Especially, I would have liked even more if we could have got a little bit more that was really weighing on him, the fact that he thought he'd genocide these people. So I think that's a point of the season I like, but could have been a lot better was those two, especially Callus, because I won more of the spy. But it was good enough for me there. So
Yeah, Callus is really, really cool in this. Again, not used as much, but still cool. And mostly in the sense when he kind of shows what he's up to at the end when they take over Lothal. A couple things I'd highlight are, I think it was when they were to deal with the TIE Defender, and so ultimately they had to fly close to the sun or the star. I think maybe that was season 3 when they were escorting Mon Mothma actually, and Hera flew close to the sun and burnt up that TIE Defender squad, and like they had to put Mon Mothma on their the Ghost. I think it was season.
I think it was
3.
3. Yeah, it was
okay,
3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I won't speak to that. I'll speak to the other one where Hera leads her squadron of like 24 ships to Lothal. The attack is happening. The fleet is like 10 star destroyers and all these other corvettes and cruisers, and they got 24 ships. And Hera's plan, greatest military leader of all time, her plan is to just fight in space and get the bombers through. And I shouldn't laugh because it's a very dire, very sad scene, but just how Thrawn plays them, and you see they're all excited on the ground, Ezra and friends, and they're like, yeah, well, they're coming. I can see them. And you just see like 20 ships just like just smoking and just crashing. It's like, oh, Hera, you fucked up, Royal.
Gotta be a more morale defeat right there, you know.
Absolutely, it's a huge morale defeat. My God, but the fallout of that was really cool. I did really enjoy that episode. It was serious, it was dark, and just the survivors on the ground. Like, what do you do? And that wasn't Wedge. That was the other guy. Which we had Wedge Antilles has made his appearance, which is very cool. But yeah, that was the other guy that I think was with Wedge that escaped at the time. But yeah, very, very dark when they were just trying to survive from the Empire on the ground level there, and everything that followed. Yeah.
Yeah, and then other stuff we talked to the very beginning too with Sabine. She was around a lot, but as she was, at the first 2 episodes is Mandalorian centric. That's the one where they're trying to get her dad back. I actually liked the fake out better in part 1 where you thought her brother and mom died. I thought it was better that they kept it that way, but they didn't. They revealed they were okay. But, you get lots of Mandalorian stuff there. I like the Mandalorian stuff. I'm always not 50-50 on it, but there's times where I think it's really good. There's times where, it might be too much. I get some Bo-Katan action there, which is good. That kind of links them up there. And, he gives her the Darksaber. Obviously, that... we know how that all goes down and stuff, but I thought it was a good opening. I think Sabine, again, they hinted a little more. We talked about how season 1 there was like a flirtation with her and Ezra. Season 2 there's only one little bit. Season 3 not really. Season 4 here like a little bit, but not even like a flirtation. Almost more just friends, just trying to look out for each other. And she's very concerned with getting him back and him not dying near the end of the episode. But again, Sabine, she's good in this season. I liked the Mandalorian stuff with her father early on. I like the different factions, and again, that kind of tied in some stuff with season 3. So yeah, all that stuff was good there for Sabine. I think she was still continue to be a great character, and she's definitely. I feel like definitely it's not just because like Ahsoka's training her and whatnot. I feel like I'm the most interested to see where her story goes out of the remaining characters, even more so Ezra. I'm excited to see Ezra, like what happened after that situation, but I feel like Sabine and her journey for me was the most fulfilling one, and that's the one that probably the character I walk away from liking the most. And then very curious to see what happens. But yeah, anything on Sabine or anything else?
I think that everything that unfolded with Sabine and Mandalore, I really, really did appreciate. I enjoyed getting a little bit more of that context. The father stuff was very interesting. I liked it, and I'm trying to remember if it was last season or this season when she defeats Gar Saxon. Again, I think it was a season 3 thing. It just because there was another Saxon from season 4, but he was the one playing and pulling the strings with Sabine. So yeah, Gar Saxon was killed in season 3. Fun little fact, because Gar Saxon, he was Maul's right hand man. If you remember in Star Wars Clone Wars, the final season, when the Republic invades Mandalore, he was rocking that super sweet Darth Maul like Zabrak Mandalorian armor. So cool, yeah. So yeah, you have another Saxon here, and you have them not wanting to use the Imperial tech on the Imperials after they used it on the Mandalorians, which you don't want to fight like they do, but I feel like you could not set the settings to kill, but set the settings to stun and detain, because like if you have a tool that only damages Imperial soldiers, I mean, you get that out there. I mean, you put that onto the front of your ship and just fly your ship around space, and it's like disarm everyone aboard a Star Destroyer and then board that shit. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. It's a game changer. But no, Sabine, in good conscience, destroyed everything. Yeah, so very cool machine, though. And I thought everything with that sequence is very hype. And I like how Thrawn basically called out Saxon, because Saxon's like, oh, we did the test and it was a success and all this, and Thrawn's like, oh, perhaps you didn't think I would notice that the range is significantly less than you promised, and all this other stuff. And yeah, you basically need Sabine Wren to finish the outfitting of this machine. So very cool stuff there.
I think I have most of my notes, 'cause I think we hit on most of the big stuff at the opening of it. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Let me just see what I put here. TIE Defender program, yep. Captain Palian, Nogri. I keep forgetting. Was it in this season where Thrawn was shooting as TIE Defender when Ezra and I think Ezra stole it? I think it was Ezra and Sabine that stole the TIE Defender, because they had to.
I think so. Yeah.
It was this season. Okay, yeah, because I remember they stripped it down for parts, and Rook is like trying to help them find like the hyperdrive, because they want to get like the, I guess called the black box, and get the black box delivered to Yavin 4's base. So there's that. But yeah, that was a very cool episode when they're just flying around and Thrawn's like, oh, let's use it as like a test. We'll see how it works out. The other thing too is using Ryder. Why can't I remember the actor's name? From Dexter, the villain last season.
Clancy Brown, when
Clancy
he's like
Brown,
uses like a
thank
fake
you.
turncoat.
Yeah, that was
like
well
that.
done. I enjoyed that, and
Because for a second you think it might happen at this point, because you're like, you don't know the ending of these characters, and you know a lot of these characters aren't around with the original trilogy, so you could easily kill some of them off. And they do kill Kanan, and that's really, they kill Kanan. I guess Ezra goes missing, but for a second I did think, okay, this could be possible, because he already had ties to the Empire before. So
yeah, I think it's very fitting, and the change in how they did it, I liked everything about it. So yeah, it was well done.
yeah, and that's it.
I think that's it.
There we go. I will give this, I think, 8.5, because I think I gave season 1 an 8, so that's where I am. So it's not 9, not in that 9 territory, more in the B category. Like I said, there's some storylines I didn't love the resolution. There's some big swings we take here that I wasn't the biggest fan of. And like I said, I wish there was a bit more of a complete ending. I feel like it ends a bit too cliffhanger, but I feel like it does end good for as far as a confrontation between our heroes and Thrawn and the other kind of Empire characters we have met over the seasons and stuff. So yeah, 8.5. That's where I am. Really, really good season. I don't love it as much as the other ones, but yeah, yourself.
I'm honestly going to go an 8.5 as well. I think that encapsulates it pretty well. I think I gave season 1 like full marks, I think.
Wow.
No, maybe I didn't. I can't remember what I gave season 1, but I think, is season 1 or season 2 is my highest. I think I gave season 2 a 9.5. Aside from season 1, I think we've been pretty much the same through our rankings on this.
Surprising. And I feel we have different issues though, and different pros.
We have different issues, yeah, and I'm glad I'm not like as critical on this. But this is not a perfect season for me. But I definitely think that it addresses some things, albeit leaving things still open for interpretation without possibly following up until now when we get Ahsoka.
Yes.
I think though that overall it's a show that I will definitely revisit, and yeah, I need some questions answered.
Yeah, I'll be very curious for me because I'm somebody I've said before. This happens with all the stuff, right? There's stuff that's happened in the MC recently that could have hurt some things, and there's stuff that happened in Mandalorian and Kenobi that have hurt Star Wars things. So I'm more expecting the show to hurt things more than answer good stuff, but you never know. Maybe they'll pull it out and stuff. But we will see because, yeah, we'll be reviewing every episode of Ahsoka. So thank you very much for tuning into these retrospectives. We've done it together. We've talked about every single season of Rebels. We're here, Ahsoka, 7 days away, and I promise you it'll not be boring. May the Force be with you.
Always.